in one piece, building the strongest naval base. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 51 Orders from Smoker. Burp burp burp. Hey, this is Smoker. Senior Smoker, it's me, Leanne. Upon hearing this, Smoker frowned slightly. He remembered that Teacher Zephyr had said that whenever Leanne spoke politely, it was usually bad news. Speak, what do you want now? I captured the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, 100 Purpose Kuro. Captured him? Fine, but wait until the prison ship goes to the 18th branch. Then tell me who you captured? He was only halfway through his sentence when Smoker suddenly realized something was wrong. The captain of the Black Cat Pirates, 100 Purpose Kuro. Impossible. Kuro was captured by Morgan of the 153rd branch more than a year ago and was subsequently executed. How did you capture a dead man? Senior, listen to me first, this is what happened. As Leanne narrated, Smoker's expression gradually changed, becoming increasingly grim. If what Leanne said was true, it would be an absolute scandal for the Navy. The entire Navy had been tricked by a pirate, can you believe it? However, we can't just listen to Leanne's side of the story, we still need to verify it. After all, it's really a bit unbelievable. Leanne, immediately send Kuro to Logatown. I want to interrogate him personally. No problem, but senior brother, you need to help me solve a troublesome matter first. What matter? It's like this, after capturing Kuro, my subordinates interrogated him and finally dug out the Black Cat Pirate's hideout from him, but soon, Leanne recounted the current situation again. After listening to what Leanne said, Smoker became more and more convinced that Morgan had been hypnotized. Otherwise, why would he stop Leanne from approaching Rissel Island, and even seem to be preparing for war? There's no reason at all. Tell me, what do you want me to do? It's simple. Just contact Branch 153 and issue this order. A few minutes later, in the waters about 30 nautical miles south of Rissel Island. The two fleets remained locked in a standoff, but being Marines, even though Morgan had been hypnotized, he couldn't simply order an attack on a fellow sailor. Moreover, even if he did give such an order, the Marines probably wouldn't obey. Everyone knew the consequences of attacking a fellow sailor without cause. They would either immediately wait to be captured and sent to a military court within the Navy, potentially ending up and impaled down, or they would try to escape, but would likely be labeled pirates by the Navy. Even with Morgan's immense power, these Marines would absolutely not dare to accept such consequences unless the other side attacked first, in which case self-defense would be a different matter. Meanwhile, inside a cabin on the warship, a den mushy suddenly rang. Brew 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 brew, this is Branch 153, please speak. This is Logatown Branch, this is Smoker. Colonel. Logatown, which oversees all branches in the East Blue, immediately stood at attention and saluted upon hearing Smoker's words. Even though the other end couldn't see him, the den mushy can only simulate facial expressions, not body movements. Now, as the highest-ranking officer in the East Blue, I issue the order. The warships of Branch 18 are en route to Rissel Island for a top-secret mission. The warships of Branch 153 must immediately clear the way and not obstruct in any way. If, during this process, Morgan continues to obstruct the 18th branch fleet's path, immediately seize him. And Lieutenant Colonel Bale will temporarily take over the management of Branch 153. Understood? The lieutenant, who had been in the communications room and unaware of what had just happened on deck, was momentarily stunned upon hearing Smoker's order. What was going on? He could understand the earlier orders, but why did it suddenly say to seize Colonel Morgan? And the answer? Yes, Colonel Smoker, I'll relay the order immediately. After hanging up the phone and wiping the sweat from his brow, the lieutenant immediately ran out of the communications room and onto the deck. However, upon reaching the deck, he was completely dumbfounded by the scene before him. Lieutenant Colonel Bale lay on the ground, blood still trickling from the corner of his mouth, while the other Marines looked on, angry but unable to speak. As for Colonel Morgan, he looked like he was about to lose control. Colonel Smoker from Logatown has sent an important order. Huh? What order? Colonel Smoker said that Branch 18 is being ordered to carry out a classified mission to Risser Island, and requires our branch's warships to immediately clear the way and not obstruct them, and at the same time. The lieutenant stopped mid-sentence. Looking at Morgan's almost out-of-control expression, he dared not continue. At the same time what? Looking at Morgan, whose eyes were bloodshot and staring intently at him, the lieutenant didn't know where the courage suddenly came from. Fine, so be it. Meanwhile, Colonel Smoker said that if Colonel Morgan continues to obstruct Branch 18, he has ordered all Marines of Branch 153 to immediately seize him, and Lieutenant Commander Bale will temporarily assume the position of base commander of Branch 153. The entire deck fell silent instantly, even the sound of breathing ceased, as if no one was alive. However, this silence didn't last long. Morgan slowly walked towards the lieutenant, and before anyone could react, he swung the axe attached to his right arm, aiming it at the lieutenant. Bang! Just when everyone thought the lieutenant was doomed, a gunshot rang out, and a bullet struck Morgan's axe squarely, knocking it away. Everyone, quick, seize Colonel Morgan. He's gone mad. Lieutenant Commander Bale reacted the fastest, shouting loudly upon seeing this, and was the first to rush forward. With Bale taking the lead, the remaining Marines moved one after another, stacking themselves like a human pyramid, eventually pinning Monka down and immobilizing him. Taking advantage of this opportunity, several other Marines quickly brought out shackles and chains, locking up Monka's exposed hands and feet. After the Marines subdued Monka, Bale breathed a sigh of relief. Quickly, report the situation to Colonel Smoker immediately and ask for instructions on what to do next. At the same time, order all warships to clear the way for the 18th Division's warship to pass. Yes, Lieutenant Colonel Bale. At the same time, on the 18th Division's large warship 300 meters away, a Marine put down his Coronas VIE. This was Larnus, who possessed B-level shooting talent. Just after Li Yan finished his call with Smoker, he instructed Larnus to keep a close eye on Monka and to open fire immediately if he made any unusual moves. Seeing that he had successfully saved the lieutenant with a single shot and that Monka had been subdued by the other Marines, Larnus breathed a slight sigh of relief, then looked at the Corona Type 18 rifle in his hand. The more he looked at it, the more he loved it. Chapter 52 100 million volts Kirin. In a smoke-filled room in Logatown. That Morgan guy really is suspicious. No, I have to report this to the Fleet Admiral, otherwise the Navy will be in a very passive position. Putting down his den mushy, Smoker considered Lieutenant Commander Bale's report from Branch 153. He could basically confirm that the situation matched Li Yan's account. But this matter still needed to be handled carefully, otherwise, if it were reported, the Navy's reputation would be severely damaged. Therefore, Smoker decided to report to Fleet Admiral Sengoku so that headquarters could prepare in advance. With that thought, Smoker picked up the den mushy again. Burp burp burp, this is Sengoku. At the same time, with the 4 warships of Branch 153 clearing the way, the 2 warships of Branch 18 finally set sail again towards Rissel Island. Fortunately, although the confrontation point was very close to Rissel Island, it was still 30 nautical miles away. From there, they couldn't directly see what was happening here, so as not to alert the enemy. An hour later, 2 warships, one large and one small, finally arrived at Rissel Island. A medium-sized pirate ship was docked on the island's shore, flying the Black Cat Pirates flag. Li Yan, don't you find this strange? Where? Not a single pirate in sight, not even a sentry. Oh, not strange. With Morgan's protection, not only will warships not come here, but even if other ships tried to approach, they'd be intercepted by Branch 153. I see, I knew it. Thor slapped his forehead, suddenly understanding. Given this situation, and the fact that nothing had happened in over a year, these pirates didn't see any danger here, so there was no need to assign anyone to guard the island. Burp burp burp, just as Li Yan was preparing to assign combat tasks, his den mushy suddenly rang. Hey, this is Li Yan. Li Yan, this is Fleet Admiral Sengoku. I now order you to completely annihilate all pirates on Rissel Island, leaving no survivors. Do you understand? Don't worry, Fleet Admiral Sengoku, that's exactly what I planned. But what about Kuro? He's still imprisoned on my ship. Li Yan naturally understood the meaning of Sengoku's order. Destroy all evidence to prevent the matter from becoming known to the outside world and damaging the Navy's reputation. Li Yan didn't object to this approach. They were a group of pirates who should have been executed countless times long ago. Could they be allowed to live, only to turn around and bite the Navy before dying, creating the darkest 20 years for civilians? Sengoku was also very satisfied with Li Yan's reaction. He immediately understood his meaning and even took the initiative to ask about Kuro's fate. Regarding Kuro's situation, after you deal with the pirates on Rissel Island, escort him to the 18th branch. Headquarters will send someone to verify his identity. Understood. After hanging up the Den Mushi, Li Yan pondered for a moment before immediately devising a new plan. Here's what we'll do, Old Master Thor, take some men to the pirate ship and deal with the pirates still on board. Lalnus, contact the 153rd branch and have them assist in patrolling 30 nautical miles off Rissel Island. Anyone who comes from the direction of Rissel Island, unless they are us, must be killed. Najiko, you haven't had a chance to try out your Kirin attack yet, have you? Hiss. Hearing Li Yan's arrangements, the first half was fine, but the second half really made Thor gasp. He had witnessed Najiko's Kirin attack before. Just over half a month ago, when Thor led a group of Marines, Luffy, Najiko, and others to the place where Blackie was training, Najiko had used this attack. That's a powerful attack that can cover an area of several kilometers in a single strike. It practically razed half of Beast Island to the ground, reducing the number of ferocious beasts by at least 20%, and even Little Black was terrified and dared not come out. Thor was so angry that he forbade Najiko from using the 100 million volt Kirin attack unless he or Li Yan gave permission. And this Rissel Island is much smaller than Beast Island. After Najiko used Kirin, the Marines could probably collect the corpses. Can I really use that attack? Yes. Najiko raised her hand weakly and asked. But when she heard Li Yan's affirmative answer, a look of eager anticipation immediately appeared on her face. She had finally developed a powerful attack, only to have it sealed away after one use. In reality, Najiko's hands had been itching for it for a long time, but she dared not disobey Thor and Li Yan's orders, so she had been holding back. Now, she finally had the opportunity to unleash her ultimate attack. If she weren't in front of Li Yan, and if there weren't a large group of Marines around, Najiko would probably have jumped up and shouted yay. Since everything's arranged, let's begin. A minute later, Thor had already reached the small warship and, under Nami's helm, was heading towards the Black Cat pirate's ship. Najiko was already on the bow deck, ready. Report, Colonel, we've contacted Branch 153. Lieutenant Colonel Bale has said he will fully assist us in completing this top-secret mission and has begun arranging warship patrols. Just then, Larnus ran from the warship's communications bay to the deck and reported to Li Yan. Very good, Najiko, you can begin. Remember not to hold back. Don't worry. After responding to Li Yan, Najiko's slightly excited expression immediately disappeared. After all, since developing this move, she had only used it once, and it wasn't very refined yet. She needed to prepare herself before unleashing it. Just then, the surrounding air gradually became heavy, and a thundercloud gradually gathered in the sky. Finally, after brewing for more than half a minute, the sun was blocked, and the entire sky above Rissel Island was completely covered by thunderclouds. Faintly, one could even see some enormous creature moving within the thunderclouds 100 million volts. Kirin. His eyes narrowed, and the long-prepared ultimate move was instantly unleashed. A huge head suddenly emerged from the thundercloud, glanced at Rissel Island, and after confirming its location, its entire body burst out of the thundercloud, instantly swooping down towards the island. Even Li Yan had to admit that the Kirin simulated by Najiko using lightning was incredibly lifelike. Moreover, unlike Enel's special moves, the Kirin created by Najiko, at first glance, would not appear to be composed of lightning. It seemed like a real, flesh-and-blood behemoth, exuding immense pressure. The enormous Killen swooped down with incredible speed, landing in the center of Rissel Island in the blink of an eye. Boom! The terrifying scene was like the end of the world. Chapter 53 Shooting the Newsbird. On the deck at the bow, Najiko was panting heavily. This attack was still too much for her at her current level. Unleashing it at full power drained 70% of her strength in one go. However, the effect was quite significant. The small island, already ravaged by Kirin, still occasionally saw flashes of lightning in the air. It seemed that it would take some time for the after effects to completely subside. Fortunately, Najiko's strength was still low, otherwise, unleashing such a powerful attack might have even permanently altered the island's environment, like Punk Hazard in the original story. Finally, after waiting for more than 10 minutes, Rissel Island calmed down. Lalness, order the warships to approach. All Marines to board the island and search. Make sure the Black Cat pirates have been completely wiped out. Yes, Colonel. Just as Li Yan was about to gather the Marines for the next step, he suddenly looked up at the sky and frowned deeply. It was a news bird, flying steadily towards Rissel Island. Li Yan naturally knew what the news bird did. They delivered newspapers for the World Economic News Agency. Of course, that was just their official job. In reality, besides delivering newspapers, the news bird also carried out intelligence gathering around the world. At this moment, the news bird, flying straight towards Rissel Island and gradually decreasing its altitude, was clearly not there to deliver newspapers. After seeing everything that was happening on the island, it would inevitably return to Morgan's, and tomorrow's World Economic News headline would undoubtedly be about the Navy's scandal. Larness. Yes, Colonel. Go, shoot at the newsbird's front, force it to turn back. If the warning is ineffective, shoot it directly. Understood. Wait, shoot the newsbird? Larness, suddenly realizing what was happening, was completely bewildered. Everyone in the pirate world knew that Morgans and Mary Giais had an agreement not to capture or kill the newsbird in exchange for the World Economic News's support in controlling public opinion. Mary Giais needs Morgans's power, and Morgans needs Mary Giais's protection. That's basically their relationship. Capturing or killing the newsbird is forbidden in the pirate world. Doing so would offend two major powers simultaneously. Therefore, even pirates generally wouldn't do such a thing. It's not worth it for a newspaper worth a few hundred berries. Enough talk, act now. The Black Cat pirate's secret cannot be exposed. Yes, Colonel. With a nervous heart, Larness raised his Corona Type 18 rifle, aimed it at the sky, and could only hope that after firing a warning shot, the newsbird would know what to do. Bang! Larness's shot was accurate. The bullet passed just meters in front of the newsbird, startling it. However, it wasn't frightened. After a brief pause, it continued flying towards Rissel Island, and at an even faster speed. Colonel, warning ineffective, and the target is about to fly out of my range. Shoot it, immediately. Yes, Colonel. With a slight sigh, he realized he still had to shoot the newsbird. Would he be sent to Navy court-martial afterward? However, Larness, whose loyalty was already maxed out, raised his gun and aimed immediately, despite his worries. Bang! About a second after the shot, the newsbird's head exploded, and its entire body plummeted downwards as if it had suddenly lost power. Colonel, target shot. Well done. Now gather the Marines and meet up with Old Man Thor before heading to the island to search. Make sure all members of the Black Cat pirates are wiped out. Yes, Colonel. Watching Larness go to gather the Marines, Li Yan pondered for a moment before taking out his Den Mushi. Burp 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 my Sengoku. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, this is Li Yan. The mission on Rissel Island is complete. Currently, the 18th branch is conducting a thorough search of Rissel Island to ensure no one escapes. Well done. However, Fleet Admiral Sengoku, there were some unexpected incidents during the mission. Headquarters may need to handle the aftermath. Sengoku frowned slightly. Just the Black Cat pirates, and they were all trapped on a small island. This should have been an easy mission, yet there were flaws. Should he re-evaluate Li Yan? It's like this. During the mission, a newsbird approached Rissel Island. After warning shots were ineffective, I had no choice but to order it shot. I also know about the agreement between Mary Giais and the World Economic News Agency, so this. Hearing this, Sengoku's furrowed brows finally relaxed. It turned out the mission wasn't the problem, but rather that a newsbird had to be killed to prevent leaks. While there is indeed an agreement against capturing or killing the newsbird, that's only on the premise that the newsbird doesn't spy on naval secrets. Furthermore, according to Li Yan, it was only after warning shots failed that it was shot. This puts the initiative in the Navy's hands. Even if Morgans wanted to cause trouble, it wouldn't be so easy. Moreover, Sengoku strongly agreed with Li Yan's approach. If it were him, he would have made the same decision, perhaps even ordering the newsbird shot without a warning shot. I'll handle this. After you finish the cleanup on Rissel Island, take Kuro back to the 18th branch. 3 days later, I'll have Kizaru go to the 18th branch to verify Kuro's identity before executing him. Understood. After hanging up the Den Mushi, Li Yan began to ponder what Sengoku had said. That lazy bum Kizaru? That's perfect, since Kizaru is in charge of the Naval Science Department and is more familiar with technology, especially weapons technology, than other Navy personnel. Once he arrives at the 18th branch, he can use him to demonstrate the various capabilities of the Corona Type 18 rifle to headquarters. As long as Kizaru isn't stupid, he'll understand the significant boost the Corona Type 18 rifle can bring to the combat power of ordinary Marines. In any case, this thing can't be hidden for long. It's better to proactively demonstrate it than to be questioned by headquarters after it's exposed. At least for now, Li Yan doesn't want headquarters to suspect him of having ulterior motives. He could even let Kizaru meet Levin and the others, and without exposing the underground research facility, have them proactively express their desire not to leave the 18th branch. That's also a very good option. This way, many things will be less troublesome in the future. Yes, let's do it this way. Chapter 54: The system that updated secretly. It has to be said, the vitality of people in the world of One Piece is truly remarkable. Najiko's 100 million volt Kirin smashed down, plowing up the entire island, yet none of the 3 bounty hunters died. How did Li Yan know this? It's simple. The system's merit point notification didn't appear. Keep in mind, these 3 guys had bounties of 9 million, 7 million, and 7 million respectively, totaling 23 million bounties, or 230,000 merit points. However, although they survived, their current condition is terrible. They're all barely alive, struggling to even take a few steps, let alone escape. Half an hour later, ding, Larnus under the host's command successfully killed Butchie with a bounty of 7 million berries, gaining 35,000 merit points. Ding, Larnus under the host's command successfully killed Sam with a bounty of 7 million berries, gaining 35,000 merit points. Ding, Thor under the host's command successfully killed Zango with a bounty of 9 million berries, gaining 45,000 merit points. Ding, Lard under the host's command successfully killed a pirate without a bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Ding, Fizz under the host's command successfully killed a pirate without a bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Within a minute, the system dinged about 10 times, indicating it had found the Black Cat Pirates camp. However, what Li Yan hadn't expected was that besides the 3 bounty-holding pirates who survived, 10 ordinary pirates had also survived. This made Li Yan marvel once again at the incredible physical attributes of people in the pirate world. Besides this, Li Yan also noticed that, unlike before, this time the system even awarded merit points to pirates without bounties, and all of them were a uniform 100 points. But according to the system's previous descriptions, weren't pirates without bounties supposed to receive no merit points? System, come out and explain what's going on with those no bounty pirates. Ding. During yesterday's system upgrade, the rewards for capturing and killing pirates were adjusted. After the adjustment, the host will receive a fixed 100 merit points for each no bounty pirate. Ding. This adjustment is because many of the host's marines, despite killing several pirates, still have 0 merit points according to the old algorithm. The system judged this to be detrimental to the host's management. By the way, how come I didn't know about the system update? Ling. Yesterday's system update time was 12 midnight. A notification was issued before the update, but the host was asleep at that time and didn't see it. Okay, you're amazing. Next time, if this happens again, please notify me after I wake up. Ding. The host's suggestion has been recorded and will be considered by the system. What the heck? Don't think I'm uncultured. Consideration is always just a euphemism for not considering it at all. Ding. Since the host already knows, why ask? I'm so annoyed. Okay, the system has looked down on me again. Li Yan decided to stop talking about it. If he continued, he might just curse the system and its ancestors for 18 generations. However, this quiet system update was quite beneficial to Li Yan. After all, although each ordinary pirate only gets a fixed 100 merit points, it's better to have some than nothing, right? And the system wasn't wrong. For example, if a marine captured or killed 5 ordinary pirates during this period, his merit points would still be 0 in the personnel management panel. But now, if you check that marine's attribute panel, it will show 50 merit points. However, what surprised Li Yan was that when he sent marines to the island to encircle and suppress them, Luffy and Buggy went along. But those 2 didn't even manage to get a single kill. It's one thing to not get the kills of the 3 of them, Zango, Buggy, and the others, but they didn't even get a single kill of an ordinary pirate? This is simply outrageous. Ding. Host has completed daily task 2. The total bounty of the pirates eliminated in this voyage exceeds 50 million berries. Reward: 10 East Blue Reputation Points. The Reputation module is now officially unlocked. Ding. The Reputation module is now officially unlocked. Please explore its functions on your own. Just as Li Yan was pondering the changes brought about by this system update, the system notification sounded again. Only then did Li Yan remember that he had first dealt with the buggy pirates in Orange Town, then captured Hyakujiro in Sirat Village, and now killed the remaining members of the Black Cat pirates on Rissel Island. The total bounty had indeed exceeded 50 million berries. He immediately opened the system panel and saw that 6 of the 9 modules were already lit up, and the newly lit module was the Reputation system. In this module, Reputation is divided into 2 main categories, Faction and World. Under the Faction Reputation category, there are naturally 5 major categories: Navy, Pirates, Rebel Alliance, Underworld, and Mary Gees. The World Reputation system is divided into 7 detailed regions: East Blue, South Blue, West Blue, North Blue, Grand Line, Paradise, Grand Line, New World, and Sky Islands. The 10 East Blue Reputation points awarded by the system were added to the East Blue region of the World Reputation system, bringing his current total to 28 points. This means that even without the system reward, Li Yan already possessed 18 East Blue Reputation points. However, what frustrated Li Yan was that the Reputation system simply displayed this information without any action to take, so he had no idea what it was for. System, at least explain it. Ding. The system has already stated that the host should investigate on their own. I shouldn't have asked. Li Yan was speechless. The system seemed to have lost its mind today. While it occasionally annoyed Li Yan, it had never acted like this before. However, since the host wouldn't tell him, he couldn't force it and could only study it slowly in the future. Speaking of which, the haul from this voyage was quite good. 2 daily missions were completed, Mission 2 aside. Mission 4 rewarded an A-rank talent that could be granted. As for merit points, the ones I gained, combined with those from Thor, exceeded 400,000. Now I can get back and start some major construction. A few minutes later, the Marines heading to Rissel Island finally completed their search mission and returned to the warship. Li Yan went straight to Old Man Thor and asked how Luffy and Buggy had performed. Thor just shook his head and gave a wry smile. This answer left Li Yan speechless. Apparently, these two were the first to discover the pirate camp, but before they could even act, Django said he was going to demonstrate a mode for them, then took out a hypnotic ring and started shaking it, telling the two to watch closely. The result, 3 days later. After a long voyage, and having also wiped out 3 small pirate crews along the way, the 2 warships finally returned to the 18th branch. After disembarking, Li Yan immediately ordered everyone to return to the Marines' dormitory to rest, and the training ground was temporarily closed for renovation. System, can you redeploy the 2 gravity training rooms in the training ground? Ding. The host can spend 50,000 merit points to retrieve the already deployed gravity training rooms into the system space, after which they can be redeployed. Okay, can I also deploy them underground? Ding. Normally not, but if the host insists on doing so, the system will charge an additional fee for constructing the underground space. Ding. If both gravity training rooms are to be placed underground, this additional construction fee will cost a total of 100,000 merit points. Ding. Plus the 60,000 merit points for retrieving the 2 gravity training rooms into the system space. This operation will consume a total of 160,000 merit points. Ding. Please confirm whether you wish to proceed. Proceed immediately. Ding. The host's request has been confirmed. Gravity training rooms are being retrieved. Retrieval complete. Ding. Construction of a permanent space 30 meters underground at the Marine Training Ground has begun. Estimated time 1 day. Ding. The underground space constructed by the system will have 2 locations large enough to place the gravity training rooms. The host can then redeploy them as needed. Perfect. Seeing the system notification, Li Yan nodded in satisfaction. Now, everything that couldn't be exposed was hidden. It was perfect. Next, all that was left was to wait for Kizaru. He still needed to prepare a gift for him. How about that 1,000 perfect excuses for being late or absent thing I wrote before? That's a good idea. I'm sure Kizaru would really like it. Thinking this, a wicked smile crept onto Li Yan's lips, a scene witnessed by Nami, who had just finished tidying up and was walking out of the cabin. Oh no. Li Yan's acting weird again. This illness seems to be getting worse. I wonder if Zilu can cure it? No, I'm going to the hospital to ask right now. While Li Yan wasn't paying attention, the girl's imagination ran wild again. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55: The Disliked Naval Science Department. Less than half a day after Li Yan returned to the 18th branch, Kizaru arrived. He didn't come by warship, but alone, using the power of the glint fruit. After all, this was a secret mission, and it wasn't appropriate to make a big fuss. That's why Sengoku sent Kizaru to handle it, only he could sneak in unnoticed. Otherwise, there would have been no need to send a Marine Admiral. How strange, is this the 18th branch? Did I come to the wrong place? With a flash of light, Kizaru appeared above Corona Island, then began talking to himself in his distinctive, irritating voice. Various highly modern buildings, a complete naval port and shipyard facilities, plus what appeared to be a training ground where Marines were practicing target shooting with weapons he'd never seen before. Although he'd read the reports, this didn't seem like the branch that had been abandoned a few months ago. Most importantly, according to Kizaru's observation haki, the bullets fired by this weapon far surpassed the standard firearms used by the Marines in terms of speed, power, and accuracy, and could also fire continuously. As a Marine Admiral in charge of research at Marine Headquarters, Kizaru was well aware of the impact this weapon would have on the situation at sea. Putting aside other factors, in terms of combat power at the mid-levels, once all Marines were equipped with this weapon, it would absolutely crush the pirates. Thinking of this, Kizaru dropped his usual nonchalant expression and showed a rare serious look. Just then, bang! A bullet shot directly into the air and hit Kizaru's head with perfect accuracy, instantly blowing his head off. Well, actually, a headshot was impossible. For Kizaru, a Logia-type user, this kind of attack was naturally no threat. His body instinctively activated part of its elemental transformation. The point of impact turned into light, and the bullet passed right through it as if it hadn't hit anything at all. However, this unexpected turn of events still left Kizaru somewhat bewildered. I'm a Marine Admiral, and I got shot on the head in an East Blue branch? That's ridiculous. Looking towards the direction the bullet came from, he saw a Marine aiming his gun at him from the training ground. Over there, a colonel was also looking up at him with a faint smile. However, that smile, no matter how you looked at it, had a mocking, almost playful tone. Kizaru recognized the face immediately and activated his ability, transforming into a beam of light and shooting towards the training ground. How terrifying. I just got here and Li Yan already started shooting at me with bullets. I almost died. Don't lie to me, it's impossible to hurt you. Admiral. Admiral. Looking at Kizaru standing before him, Usopp noticed the man's cloak and rank insignia. Holy crap, isn't this an admiral? The colonel said someone was invading from the sky, and the target I was supposed to shoot was a Marine Admiral? I'm doomed. The colonel tricked me. Thinking this, Usopp's legs began to tremble uncontrollably. Ugh, so what? You just fired a shot at the Admiral, is it really necessary to be this scared? Get me a 200-kilogram load and run around the island, right now. Li Yan said irritably, looking at Usopp's expression. However, upon hearing Li Yan's words, Usopp immediately became excited, quickly slung his load over his shoulder, and ran off. Brother Li Yan, your Marines are really something else. Watching Usopp run out of the training ground as if his life depended on it, Kizaru couldn't help but chuckle. However, he quickly focused his attention on the Marines who were conducting target practice. To be precise, he focused on the Corona Type 18 rifles in their hands. So, as the first admiral to be shot in the head, what do you think of the performance of the Corona Type 18 rifle? That's terrifying. Brother Li Yan, you let someone shoot me for this? Of course, experiencing it firsthand will give you a better understanding. Besides, what are you, a Logia-type user, doing, constantly yelling about how terrifying it is? Li Yan looked at Kizaru with disdain. Let's go. It's not convenient for others to hear what happens next. Let's talk in my office. Okay. A few minutes later, the two arrived at Li Yan's office in the branch building. Wow, Li Yan, your office design is really unique. Looking at the huge floor-to-ceiling windows and the extremely modern decor, Kizaru's eyes lit up. He even wondered if he should ask Li Yan who designed it and hire someone to renovate his headquarters office as well. Wait a moment. To better discuss what's next, I'll call someone over. With that, Li Yan picked up the Den Mushi. Burp burp burp, this is the Firearms Research Institute. This is Levin. Levin, bring the design blueprints for the Corona Type 18 rifle to my office. Yes, Colonel. After hanging up, Li Yan was about to call Kizaru when he noticed that Kizaru was staring at a booklet on his desk, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying light. The booklet's cover read, 1000 Perfect Excuses for Being Late or Absent, Volume 1. Well, no wonder Kizaru suddenly acted strangely, Li Yan thought, understanding now. Li Yan, what's this? You mean this? I wrote it a while ago when I was bored. It's a summary of some of my marine training experiences. Admiral Kizaru, if you find it useful, you can take a look. Oh, I see. Then I'll take it back and study it carefully, see what I can learn from it. Kizaru said seriously, then carefully took the booklet. He then, like a Sichuan opera face-changing act, held it in his hands as if it were a sacred object, his face full of reverence. This scene made Li Yan's lips twitch. Alright, let's get down to business. About 2 months ago, a research team that escaped from the Vinsmoke family came to the 18th branch seeking refuge. The Vinsmoke family? Hearing Li Yan bring up serious matters, Kizaru also became more serious. He naturally knew about the Vinsmoke family, their research capabilities were definitely among the top 3 in the world. And according to Li Yan, he now possessed a former Vinsmoke family research team. So that new firearm was. That's right. The full name of that new rifle is the Corona 1518 bolt-action rifle, or the Type 18 rifle for short, though I prefer to call it the Corona Type 18 rifle. As if reading Kizaru's mind, Li Yan spoke. Overall length 1050 mm, weight 4 kg without ammunition, theoretical effective range 600 meters, magazine capacity 8 rounds, muzzle velocity 730 meters per second. Furthermore, this rifle uses a new type of bullet. Relying on the rifling designed inside the barrel, it allows the bullet to spin at high speed after firing. Blah blah blah. Li Yan briefly explained the firearm's parameters. Hearing this, Kizaru's face showed a look of shock. If what Li Yan said is true, then this so-called Corona Type 18 rifle is not just a step above the current standard issue rifle, but several steps above it. Has this rifle been tested in actual combat? Yes. We brought 30 prototype Type 18 rifles with us on this voyage. After several combat tests against pirates, we can conclude that in the East Blue, absolutely no one can withstand a single bullet, not even those pirates worth 10 or 20 million. Hiss. Although there aren't many powerful pirates in the East Blue, there are still some worth 10 or 20 million. If it's a standard issue Navy rifle, even many pirates worth a few million wouldn't be afraid, but Li Yan said that in the East Blue, absolutely no pirate could withstand a single bullet from a Corona Type 18 rifle. The difference is enormous. This is even better than what Kizaru had anticipated at the training grounds. Knock knock knock. Just as Kizaru was thinking about this, there was a knock on the office door. Come in. Colonel. Admiral Kizaru, let me introduce you. This is Levin, the leader of the Corona Type 18 rifle development team. Wow, that's amazing. To be able to create such a powerful weapon. Tell the leader, are you interested in joining the Naval Science Department? Upon seeing the developer of the new weapon, Kizaru immediately went into poaching mode. However, Levin remained unmoved. I'm sorry, Admiral Kizaru, after receiving Colonel Li Yan's protection, we swore an oath to follow the Colonel for life. But there's no dedicated research equipment here, while the Naval Science Department has the best research environment in the world. Would you consider it again? I'm sorry, please allow us to remain in the 18th branch. Levin firmly refused Kizaru again, but in reality, he was quite dismissive of Kizaru's claim of the best research environment in the world. You haven't seen the research environment of the 18th branch. As a research fanatic who had witnessed the 18th branch's underground research institute, he would only leave the 18th branch for the Naval Science Department if he were out of his mind. Admiral Kizaru, it's not very nice of you to poach people in front of me. I suddenly lost inspiration for the second half of that thing, and I might not be able to write it. A threat. This was a blatant threat, and Kizaru immediately felt uneasy. Chapter 56 The Abnormality of Kizaru. No wonder Kizaru was wondering why there was only the first volume. It turns out this kid was waiting for him here. But considering the benefits he could gain from it, Kizaru didn't need to choose. They were just some scientists researching firearms. It wouldn't affect the big picture. After all, this world still revered strength, and these firearms were useless against truly powerful people. Besides, if they didn't want to, he was a Marine, he couldn't just forcibly take it. A forced relationship wouldn't be happy, right? Kizaru touched the booklet hidden inside his clothes with his right hand, constantly convincing himself. Soon, he made his decision. How terrifying. Brother Li Yan actually threatened me. But even if I get past this hurdle, Fleet Admiral Sengoku won't be so easy to get past. Don't worry about that, Levin. Give the blueprints to Admiral Kizaru. Yes, Colonel. Hearing Li Yan's words, Levin immediately handed over the stack of blueprints he was holding. These are all the design blueprints for the Corona Type 18 rifle. I think if you take this back, Fleet Admiral Sengoku won't have the nerve to try and poach me again, right? Li Yan said with a smile. Kizaru immediately began flipping through the blueprints. However, he couldn't understand such technical stuff. Alright, I hope it's as you wish, but I can't guarantee it. With this, I think the Admiral should be able to put in a good word for me, right? Actually, Kizaru wasn't lying. Li Yan's offer of all the design blueprints was indeed surprising, but knowing Fleet Admiral Sengoku well, he knew that for his Admiral, anything not in his hands was a threat. Therefore, he couldn't guarantee that Sengoku wouldn't try to take him away. Li Yan just smiled, then opened a drawer and took out another booklet, pushing it in front of Kizaru. Kizaru's eyes narrowed immediately upon seeing the words on the cover: lateness, absence, 1,000 perfect excuses, Volume 2, good heavens, this is blatant bribery? However, as the Fleet Admiral of the Navy, how can you steal someone from your subordinates? That would make you a pirate. Don't worry, I'll help you persuade Fleet Admiral Sengoku. While saying this seriously, Kizaru suddenly picked up the booklet on the table and then stuffed it back into his suit. This scene made Levin, who was watching from the side, twitch at the corner of his mouth. Is this what a Navy Admiral is like? Is this what his own colonel is like? And you two are so openly bribing each other in front of me? I feel like I've seen something I shouldn't have seen. Are you going to kill me to silence me? Thinking of this, Levin couldn't help but tremble a few times. Levin, you can go now. Yes, Colonel. The person who was imagining things, upon hearing Li Yan's order, was as if he had heard heavenly music. His whole body revealed a joyful expression. He responded and immediately withdrew. Li Yan, not only are your Marines interesting, but your research institute is quite interesting too. Like it? How about I submit a report and transfer to the 18th branch for a retirement? You're really scary. I was just admiring your researchers, and now you're trying to poach a Marine Admiral. Even if I wanted to, Fleet Admiral Sengoku wouldn't agree. Alright, enough joking. We have serious business to attend to, right? Right, I almost forgot. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can go home and rest. Hearing Kizaru's words, Li Yan's lips twitched. This guy really never thinks about slacking off. What happened next was simple. Li Yan took Kizaru to see Kuro, and Kizaru took out a photo provided by the intelligence department and compared it. After confirming the identity was correct, he ended Kuro's sinful life with a single laser shot. Then he took out a den-den-mushi. Burp, hello? Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Grandpa, you've got the wrong phone again. This is Sentamaru. Hearing the voice from the den-den-mushi and seeing the simulated Sentamaru's expression, the veins on his forehead clearly visible, Li Yan almost burst out laughing. He'd witnessed this scene so quickly. How strange, I clearly have the Fleet Admiral's phone, Kizaru said smugly, pulling out another den-den-mushi. Burp, this is Sengoku. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, this is Kizaru. The matter is settled. Okay, then hurry back. No, Fleet Admiral Sengoku, I have important business to attend to with Li Yan. What? I didn't know you had business to attend to? Li Yan looked completely bewildered. But he quickly realized that this guy was probably just making excuses to slack off again. What could be going on over there? Get out of here and stop trying to slack off. Sengoku bluntly exposed Kizaru's irritating voice, but Kizaru showed no embarrassment at being exposed. Instead, a slight smile appeared on his lips. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Li Yan has invented a new type of firearm. Preliminary tests show it's several times stronger than the Navy's current standard firearms. I plan to stay here for a few days, and after all the testing is complete, I'll take the blueprints back to headquarters. A new type of firearm? Yes, Li Yan calls this firearm the Corona 1518 bolt-action rifle, or the Type 18 rifle for short. It's not only powerful but also extremely accurate, with an effective range of 600 meters. Most importantly, it can fire 8 rounds in a row after a single reload. Really? Absolutely. Kizaru was secretly smug. I have an impeccable reason now. I'm not afraid you won't let me laze around here for a few days. Alright, you'll stay at Branch 18. Once the testing is complete, immediately escort all the design drawings back to headquarters. No mistakes allowed. Yes, Fleet Admiral Sengoku. After hanging up the phone, Kizaru's face practically beamed with joy. Should he just laze around for 3 days, 5 days, or? While I apologize for interrupting your daydreams, I must remind you, Admiral, did you ask for my permission before using me as a cover? If you can't offer me satisfactory compensation, I'll report you to Fleet Admiral Sengoku right now. Just as Kizaru was planning how many days he'd laze around, Li Yan spoke up. Name your price, Li Yan. Your share is 50-50. What? Kizaru was instantly dumbfounded. He'd only used an excuse to laze around for a few days. He hadn't swindled any funding from Sengoku. How could it be a 50-50 split? It's simple. I don't care how many days you use this excuse to slack off, half of those days are at my disposal. Half of the days at your disposal? Still completely bewildered, Kizaru couldn't understand what Li Yan was saying. The rumble fruit, Admiral Kizaru, you've heard of it, right? Of course I have. One of my subordinates recently ate this fruit. As the most experienced devil fruit user in the Navy, Admiral Kizaru shouldn't be stingy with giving her some time to guide her, right? What? One of your subordinates ate the rumble fruit. At this moment, Kizaru was truly shocked. He knew exactly what the rumble fruit was, the strongest Logia-type devil fruit according to the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, and it also possessed speed second only to his own glint fruit. It could be said that unless her talent was too poor, she would at least become an elite vice admiral in the future, perhaps even an admiral. Thinking of this, Kizaru's lewd face became somewhat serious. How's your talent? If we're talking about talent in developing devil fruit abilities, I haven't seen anyone better than her. But after all, the East Blue is a small place, and almost no one has experience in developing devil fruits, so. Enough said. I'll stay here with you for 10 days, and during those 10 days I'll give her comprehensive guidance. Hearing this, Li Yan was instantly stunned. What's going on with Kizaru? He had originally planned to use half of Kizaru's time to guide Najiko, or at least 30%. But now? The man was saying he'd use all his time for guidance? Uncle, are you really Admiral Kizaru, and not some imposter? Chapter 57 Kizaru takes on a disciple. Li Yan's words, stating that she had never seen anyone with better talent in developing devil fruits, directly struck at Kizaru's weak spot. After all, at headquarters, Zephyr always gave him a cold shoulder and often criticized him. This made Kizaru very resentful. It's important to understand that Zephyr and Kizaru had a huge difference in their views on training. Zephyr believed that physical skills were primary, and devil fruit secondary. True battles between masters ultimately relied on physical skills and haki. But Kizaru's view was completely the opposite. Devil fruits were primary, and physical skills secondary. For him, physical skills only needed to meet the requirements of his devil fruit. There was no need to train them to the peak. The problem was that the world's top fighters almost all possessed peak physical skills, making it difficult for Kizaru to refute Zephyr's point of view. Therefore, Kizaru had always wanted to find someone with the same extraordinary talent for developing devil fruits as himself, who had also eaten a powerful devil fruit, and personally trained them to become one of the world's strongest fighters, to prove himself right. Yes, Kizaru might be a bit of a slacker, but when it comes to this, he's anything but. After Li Yan summoned Najiko and demonstrated the extent of her devil fruit development since eating it, Kizaru became even more interested. Wasn't this the perfect candidate he'd always envisioned? Almost no martial arts talent, yet she ate the rumble fruit, possessing the strongest attack power, and had an even more incredible ability to develop her fruit than he did. At this moment, without even using the power of the glint fruit, Kizaru's eyes were already flashing. Admiral Kizaru, how does it feel? It's truly terrifying. Her talent for fruit development is even stronger than mine, and she ate the rumble fruit. This girl will at least be a marine general in the future. I'm glad you're satisfied. The next 10 days are in your hands, Admiral. But regarding Najiko's existence, I wonder if you could keep it a secret for a while? No problem, of course. Keep it a secret. Even if Li Yan hadn't said anything, Kizaru intended to keep it a secret. Otherwise, after Sengoku took this girl to headquarters, she would definitely be sent to Zephyr's elite training camp, which would be disastrous. Therefore, it absolutely must be kept secret for now. We'll talk about it after this little girl grows up. We can't let Zephyr corrupt her. Kizaru was thinking this in his mind. The little girl's name is Najiko, right? Yes, Admiral. Najiko answered loudly, while also feeling a little puzzled. Why did the Admiral suddenly appear, and even specifically call her over? I will stay here for 10 days to specifically guide you in developing your devil fruit. And in the future, whenever there is an opportunity, I will come to continue guiding you. What do you think? Hearing this, Najiko was a little confused. Kizaru, one of the 3 admirals of the Navy, and the one Li Yan had once told her was the one with the highest devil fruit development talent in the 3 admirals squadron, was going to personally guide her? Was this a dream? What are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and become my disciple. Seeing Najiko's dazed look, Li Yan shouted impatiently. The admiral not only would focus on guiding her for the next 10 days, but also said that he would come to the 18th branch to continue guiding her whenever he had time. It's so obvious they want to take you as their disciple. With such a powerful backer in the pirate world, why are you still standing there, not even formally becoming their apprentice? Startled by Li Yan's shout, Najiko finally snapped out of her daze. Najiko, thank you for your guidance, Master. Although still feeling somewhat dazed, she immediately greeted Kizaru respectfully. Hearing this, Kizaru nodded in satisfaction, even the lewd expression on his face disappearing considerably. Then, after asking Li Yan for a warship and several marines, he eagerly took Najiko away. After all, Najiko's Rumble Fruit's power and destructive range were too great, unsuitable for training on Corona Island. Otherwise, a miscalculation could blow up the entire 18 branches. Therefore, Kizaru needed to find a deserted island for Najiko to begin training. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. There were still more than 4 months left before the headquarters assessment of Li Yan, and the shortfall in military merits was a staggering 150 million. This gave Li Yan a huge headache. There was simply too little profit in the East Blue. The only remaining fat sheep was probably the Krieg pirates. But even with the Krieg pirates, it only amounted to 29 million merits, still leaving a shortfall of over 100 million merits. Relying on smaller pirate crews to fill that gap within 4 months was virtually impossible. Should he find a reason to enter the Grand Line? Hey, Li Yan, what's troubling you? Your brows are practically furrowed. Just as Li Yan was racking his brains for an excuse to leave the East Blue and have some fun in the Grand Line, that familiar, annoying voice came from the office door. It was none other than Kizaru, and of course, Najiko was with him. Only then did Li Yan remember that 10 days had passed. He quickly opened Najiko's attribute panel to see how she had grown under Kizaru's guidance over the past 10 days. Najiko age: 18 birthplace, Kakoasi village, East Blue rank, private power level. 249 talent, X rank devil fruit development talent devil fruit, Rumble fruit LV, 32, 10%, 3 types of haki, armament haki, unawakened, observation haki LV, 25, 15%, conqueror's haki, unawakened, skills, electric discharge LV, 41, 20%, lightning strike LV, 32, 55%, lightning punishment LV, 48, 70%, 30 million volt thunder beast LV, 35, 55%, 60 million volt thunder dragon LV, 21, 25%, 100 million volt Kirin LV, 11, 35%, 200 million volt thunder god mode LV, 5, 70%, military merit points, 29.78 million loyalty, 100, evaluation. This is currently in existence that can easily crush its host, hiss. Looking at Najiko's attribute template, Li Yan also gasped. This growth rate is a bit too fast. No wonder he was personally instructed by Kizaru. He even managed to create the 200 million volt thunder god mode. However, in the original work, Ainel's thunder god mode is that of a large, fat man. If Najiko is like that, honestly, it's a bit of an eyesore. Most importantly, both his observation haki and lightning punishment have greatly improved. This means that Najiko can now use these two in combination to become a fixed, unstoppable artillery platform, practically indistinguishable from a missile's beyond visual range precision strike. Brother Li Yan, I'll head back to headquarters to report now. As for Levin and the others, I'll try to persuade Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Thank you very much, Admiral Kizaru. Najiko, after I leave, continue to work hard according to the plan I gave you. I'll be checking your progress next time I come. Yes, Master. After giving all the instructions, Kizaru transformed into a streak of light and dashed out of Li Yan's office window. Chapter 58 Human Trafficker Sengoku. The Grand Line, Marineford, Marine Headquarters. The training camp's shooting range had long been cleared out. Those still standing there, aside from a lieutenant colonel who had stayed behind specifically as a marksman, were all high-ranking figures from headquarters: Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Staff Officer Churu, Vice Admiral Garp, Admiral Kizaru, Admiral Aokiji, and Chief Instructor Zephyr. At this moment, except for Kizaru, whom they had already encountered at the 18th branch, everyone's face was filled with shock. Just now, the lieutenant colonel had fired 8 shots in succession at a 5mm thick steel plate from 100 meters away with a Corona Type 18 rifle. The result, naturally, was that the steel plate was riddled with 8 holes. Kizaru, this gun was invented by the 18th branch? Yes, the scientist who invented this weapon comes from the Vinsmoke family and currently works for the 18th branch as the head of the research department. Then why didn't you bring him back to me? Upon hearing this, Fleet Admiral Sengoku glared at Kizaru. This guy is unreliable. He's capable of developing this new type of firearm, and you didn't even think to bring him back? Fleet Admiral, I wanted to, but he's unwilling. Levin said that when they were fleeing, Li Yan took them in and provided shelter, so they'll follow Li Yan for life? Well, as a Marine, I can't just kidnap people like a human trafficker, can I? Kizaru said innocently. This immediately stopped Sengoku from saying what he was about to say. Some things can be done without being said, but once someone brings it up, it becomes difficult to act. Besides, Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Li Yan has already given me all the design blueprints for the Corona Type 18 rifle. How can I possibly take him away? So I think it doesn't really matter where Levin stays. He's still within our Marines, and he'll report any new inventions he makes to headquarters. Taking him away like this would be inappropriate. Hearing this, Sengoku fell silent. Although he still wanted to bring the person to headquarters, after Kizaru said that in front of all the high-ranking officers, he couldn't bring himself to speak. Come to think of it, why was Kizaru so enthusiastic today? It wasn't like him at all. Garp, Sengoku, I think Kizaru is right. We're not human traffickers. Don't always see everything as a threat and try to steal everything. Zephyr, if you forcibly bring the person over, not only will Li Yan's side lose faith in headquarters, but even that scientist named Levin might not continue to dedicate himself to developing new equipment for the Navy. Aokiji, it's indeed inappropriate, and it doesn't conform to the Navy's sense of justice. Churu, I agree with their views, doing so would be counterproductive. Just as Sengoku was starting to think, Garp, Zephyr, Aokiji, and Churu all spoke up. After being told this, Sengoku was speechless. All the high-ranking officers at Navy headquarters opposed his actions, and even as Fleet Admiral, he couldn't say anything more. Didn't you see that Aokiji even elevated it to the level of justice? Alright, since Li Yan has submitted all the design blueprints, Kizaru, you should get the science department thoroughly familiar with the technology as soon as possible and start mass production as soon as possible. Within a year, I want to see all Marines at headquarters upgraded. After a moment's thought, Sengoku had to admit that what they said made sense. Nodding, he turned to Kizaru and gave him the orders. Don't worry, Fleet Admiral, before returning to headquarters, I went to the science department and handed over the blueprints to Vegapunk. I believe mass production will be achieved soon. That's good. By the way, Kizaru, you should go to the 18th branch every 3 months to find out if that Levin has any new inventions. Okay, no problem. Hearing this, Sengoku paused, feeling that something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. That's it. Attitude. Yes, attitude. Kizaru's attitude today was very unusual. He was so enthusiastic. Normally, this guy would definitely find all sorts of excuses to refuse this kind of mission. There's definitely something wrong. Looks like I'll have to try Kizaru. Forget it, I know you're afraid of trouble. Let Aokiji go next time. Sengoku gave Kizaru a deep look and then pretended to sigh slightly. Fleet Admiral, no. I can do it. Aokiji is unreliable, please don't let him go. Hearing Sengoku say this, Kizaru immediately panicked. How could he coach Najiko if he couldn't go? And if Aokiji went, he might come back and expose Najiko's affairs. As for what would happen after that, Sengoku would definitely snatch him away, and then Zephyr would benefit, gaining another genius disciple. What would happen to him then? No, he absolutely couldn't allow that to happen. However, when Kizaru finished thinking and looked up, he found everyone staring at him. Especially Aokiji, whose face was completely dark. Wait, why are you all looking at me? Speak, Kizaru, what are you still hiding about the 18 branches? Seeing Kizaru's reaction after being tested, Sengoku knew he had guessed correctly. Okay, I'll tell you. Actually, I've taken on a disciple at the 18th branch, a marine under Li Yan's command. I plan to visit her regularly to guide her on devil fruit development. Wow. Kizaru took on a disciple? Has the sun risen in the west? This is too strange. Kizaru, what kind of marine is she that you'd take on as a disciple, and guide her so diligently? It was Aokiji who spoke. He was no longer sleepy, but rather very gossipy about Kizaru taking on a disciple. It's a girl about 16 years younger than me. 2 months ago, she accidentally ate a devil fruit. She has almost no talent in martial arts, but she possesses a devil fruit development talent far superior to mine. Wait, if it's just fruit development talent, you shouldn't be like this. What kind of fruit did she eat? Could it be a Logia-type devil fruit? Goodness, no wonder he's known as the strategist Fleet Admiral. I only said a little, and he already guessed the gist. Sigh, Li Yan, it's not that I didn't want to hide it, but I couldn't. The rumble fruit. What? You said it's the rumble fruit? Yes. Damn it, why didn't you bring her back? Hearing this, Sengoku's human trafficker nature was once again on full display. However, this time the others didn't object to Sengoku. After all, the rumble fruit was no less powerful than the devil fruits of the 3 admirals, and even surpassed them in attack power. As long as he didn't ruin his training, he was a shoo-in for a marine admiral in the future. Such a person should indeed be transferred to headquarters for systematic training and properly instilled with the Navy's sense of justice. Fleet Admiral, I advise you to abandon this idea for now. Why? That girl is from Kakoyashi village. Chapter 59 Targeting the Mousaji's warship. Upon hearing Kizaru's strange words, Sengoku was about to retort, so what if he's from Kakoyashi village, but the words caught in his throat. Kakoyashi village was the site of a major scandal for the Navy recently. The 16th branch of the East Blue colluded with the Arlong pirates, ruling several villages, including Kakoyashi village, for 6 years. During this time, hundreds of villagers were killed simply for failing to pay their debts. Therefore, for the people of Kakoyashi village, the Navy and pirates were equally untrustworthy, with the exception of the 18th branch that had saved them. Under these circumstances, if you were to forcibly bring him to headquarters, it would likely only exacerbate Najiko's negative feelings towards the Navy. Damn rat. With a headache, Sengoku could only curse angrily. Sengoku, it's best to maintain the status quo for now. Besides, Kizaru has taken her on as a student, right? With that relationship, over time, he can naturally change her image of the Marines. Alright, that's the only way. Kizaru, you better teach her properly. If you ruin her, I'll deal with you. Hearing Churu's words, Sengoku temporarily abandoned the idea of bringing her to headquarters, glaring at Kizaru before shouting. Li Yan was unaware of what was happening at headquarters. At this moment, he was watching Buggy's antics with great interest. He remembered telling Buggy when he first brought him back that he had not only narrowed his career path but also his devil fruit development. Such an awesome chop fruit, and you've turned it into a self-harming fruit? Only using the fruit's power on your own body, isn't that self-harm? Haven't you tried not to chop yourself up, but to chop up something else? Although this was merely Li Yan's own guess, Buggy was immediately enlightened upon hearing it and began experimenting relentlessly, becoming completely engrossed. Until this moment, let Grandpa Buggy show you what the power of a god truly is. Standing before a several-meter-high boulder, Buggy laughed maniacally. Shatter into pieces. Placing his hand on the boulder, Buggy shouted after a moment of preparation. Then, a miraculous scene unfolded. Countless cracks suddenly appeared on the boulder, and in less than 3 seconds, The several-meter-high boulder shattered into countless flat fragments, collapsing with a deafening roar. This scene shocked the surrounding Marines, and Buggy thoroughly enjoyed their reactions, continuing to laugh. However, boom! A bolt of black lightning struck, and Buggy's laughter abruptly ceased. He collapsed to the ground, black smoke billowing from his mouth. "Oh, Colonel," Buggy just looked so annoying, I couldn't help myself. "It's alright, you can do it anytime, teach him a lesson." Sigh, really? Yeah, devil fruit users are very resilient, they don't die easily, don't worry. Yes, Colonel, I understand. Buggy, lying on the ground exhaling black smoke but still conscious, was horrified after hearing Li Yan and Nichiko's conversation. Li Yan was one thing, he could take a few punches at most, but Nichiko, he really couldn't handle her. Why did she have to show off like that? She must have lost her mind. Thinking of this, Buggy wanted to punch himself. Okay, although the ending was a bit melodramatic, Buggy did indeed grasp the true use of the chop fruit, and his future is definitely promising. And looking at these neatly cut fragments, Buggy, you really chose the wrong path. Not only do you have research talent, but with a skill, even becoming a construction worker would be quite promising. At this moment, Buggy, lying on the ground and still puffing out black smoke, was unaware that Li Yan had already arranged a side job for him. Yes, a side job, and a construction job at that. Colonel, a warship is approaching the branch. Just as Li Yan was thinking and introducing Buggy to Groves, a Marine trotted over to report to Li Yan. A warship? I'll go take a look. Soon, Li Yan arrived at the naval port. At the same time, as the warship had gotten much closer, Li Yan recognized who it was. Admiral Candidate Momousaji Jian. This woman, why is she here again? Wait, speaking of which, Jian's super warship is equipped with Seastone, so it can travel through the comm belt, right? How about we trick her into using her warship to take the branch's Marines on a trip around the Grand Line? Touching his chin, Li Yan pondered how to trick Momousaji. After all, he was currently facing a huge shortage of military supplies. It wasn't easy. The best way would be to take a trip into the Grand Line, where pirates worth tens of millions are countless, making the test much easier. The reason Li Yan hasn't done this is that ordinary warships must pass through Reverse Mountain to enter the Grand Line. The problem is, once inside, ordinary warships can't get out unless they have absolute power or, like the Marines' warships, install Seastone on their hulls and traverse the comm belt. Neither method is realistic for Li Yan at his current level. But if he could fool Momousaji, it would be a different story. Her warship is one of the Marines' only 8 super warships, also equipped with Seastone and a comm belt propulsion system, allowing it to easily traverse the comm belt. Keep in mind, the East Blue is right next to Paradise in the first half of the Grand Line, separated only by the comm belt. Once he gets Momousaji on board, entering and leaving the Grand Line will be a piece of cake, posing no challenge whatsoever. Thinking of this, Li Yan's eyes gleamed as if he had eaten a glittering fruit. Vice Admiral Jian, long time no see. Li Yan greeted Momousaji, who had arrived at the naval port on a small boat. Only 2 months? What do you mean long time no see? Sigh, hasn't Vice Admiral Jian ever heard the saying, a day apart feels like 3 autumns? Well, Momousaji hadn't heard it saying before, after all, it wasn't from the One Piece world. Although she didn't quite understand its meaning, for some reason, Momousaji unconsciously showed a hint of shyness, making Li Yan stare blankly. Ahem, I wonder what brings Vice Admiral Jian here this time? He quickly stopped his lecherous expression and pulled Momousaji back from her inexplicable mood. Well, I feel like I'm on the verge of becoming a great swordsman, and I'd like to borrow that for a while. Oh, no problem, you already promised. But I also have a favor to ask. I wonder if Vice Admiral Jian could help? What favor? I need to borrow Vice Admiral Jian's warship. Chapter 60 The Real Underwater Prison. Upon hearing Li Yan's words, Momousaji was taken aback. What the hell? Borrowing his own warship? Don't your 18th branch have warships? There's definitely something wrong here. Tell me first, what do you need the warship for? Vice Admiral Jian should know about the graduation assessment of the headquarters training camp, right? You mean, to sail to the Grand Line to find pirates for real combat to test a new recruit's combat strength? That's right. After a slight pause, Momousaji asked. At this moment, she roughly guessed why Li Yan wanted to borrow his warship. After all, She had seen the Marines trained by the 18th branch last time, and they were in no way inferior to the elite Marines of the headquarters. To be honest, in a weak sea like the East Blue, it was really hard to find pirates who were good enough to test them. And these warships of the East Blue branch didn't have a calm wind propulsion system, nor were they equipped with sea stone on their hulls, so it was impossible for them to enter the Grand Line through the calm belt. As for Reverse Mountain, they could go in, but the problem was that once they went in, they couldn't return to the East Blue. But he couldn't just lend it to Li Yan like that, otherwise he'd be responsible if anything happened to them on the Grand Line. How about this? I can lend you the warship, but I have to wait until I break through, then I'll go with you. What if Vice Admiral Jian doesn't break through in a year, then? Good grief, wasn't that just a veiled criticism of his own incompetence? A frown immediately appeared on Mamausaji's forehead. 10 days. If I haven't broken through to Great Swordsman in 10 days, then I'll accompany you to the Grand Line, okay? It's a deal. It's a deal. It's a deal. Can I go to the gravity training room now? Of course, Larnus, take the Vice Admiral to the gravity training room. Yes, Colonel. Watching Mamausaji's departing figure, Li Yan pondered. It was just a coincidence that Mamausaji came, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to freely enter the Grand Line to beg. Therefore, should he try to get some sea stone and then find someone to design a windless propulsion system for his super warship? Sea stone isn't a big problem, he can request a batch from headquarters, and Fleet Admiral Sengoku will most likely not refuse. The key is the windless propulsion system. This thing isn't something an ordinary shipwright can design, at least Sanders couldn't, as Li Yan had asked him before. But how easy is it to find a shipwright who can design and manufacture both? The most well-known ones are Iceberg and Frankie, but if you were to touch either of them, he'd likely be immediately targeted by CP9. For now, Li Yan doesn't want to expose himself to the CP organization. However, while those two are difficult to deal with, others should be possible, like the foreman at Takura's shipyard in Water 7, such as Barry. He could use the half-finished super battleship Sengoku gave him as an excuse to hire a foreman from Water 7? As long as the person hired isn't Lucci or Kaku. Yes, that's it. First, complete the assessment, then have Mamausaji take him for a tour of Water 7. Having made up his mind, Li Yan began to consider another matter, prisons. The number of pirates captured before was small, and they weren't particularly strong, so temporarily converting rooms in the branch building into prisons wasn't a big problem. However, after heading to the Grand Line, he would inevitably capture pirates much stronger than those in the East Blue, and their numbers would likely be considerable. Therefore, continuing to use the temporary prisons was clearly unsuitable. Thus, building a dedicated prison was obviously a top priority. With this in mind, Li Yan opened the system and browsed the prison buildings in the construction module. It must be said that the system offered a wide variety of prisons. There was even a planetary orbital prison, can you believe it? Although it was impressive, the price of the blueprint, 100 billion merit points, made Li Yan lose interest immediately, and he continued browsing other types. Finally, Li Yan's gaze settled on the description of the underwater prison, Core Control Room 1, Prison Area 1, expandable later, a prison built at a depth of 1,000 to 3,000 meters underwater, accessible only by the submarine provided by the system. Blueprint exchange price. 100,000 merit points. Construction method. Due to lack of relevant technology, it cannot be constructed by local construction teams and can only be built through system commission, with a commission fee of 300,000 merit points. Required materials. Due to lack of corresponding pressure-resistant materials, it can only be purchased through the system, with a purchase fee of 200,000 merit points. When Li Yan saw this, the first thing that came to mind was Impel Down. But from every angle, this underwater prison is much stronger than Impel Down. First of all, the depth. It is built directly at a depth of 1,300 meters underwater. According to the depth of the sea area around Corona Island, a large area is around 3,000 meters, so it can be built to the maximum extent. At this depth, even if someone escapes, it will be useless. At a depth of 3,000 meters, do you dare to open the hatch and come out? You will be crushed in a minute. Especially for those devil fruit users, if Shiki were imprisoned in this prison, would you let him escape again? In Impel Down, he could escape and then fly away with his own ability. But 3,000 meters underwater, why don't you try flying over there? The only problem is that, Like that absurd orbital prison, the construction technology and materials required for this underwater prison are currently beyond the capabilities of the world, so it can only be handled through a system commission. Blueprints cost 100,000 merit points, materials cost 200,000 merit points, and the construction commission fee is 300,000 merit points, totaling 600,000 merit points. Li Yan wanted to say that all the construction costs for the 18 branches so far haven't even reached that much. System, how many merit points do I have now? Ding. The host currently has 673,800 merit points. Well, it seems the last voyage was quite successful, especially Thor's ship, which wiped out several pirate crews. Although each one's bounty wasn't high, they still contributed over 100,000 merit points to Li Yan. Although he had enough merit points, building this would mean he was back to square one. Li Yan was slightly conflicted, but this conflict didn't last long. He gritted his teeth and started building. System, purchase the blueprints for the underwater prison and the necessary materials for its construction. Also, commission its construction through the system. Ding. Host's request confirmed. A total of 600,000 merit points have been deducted, leaving 73,800 merit points. Ding. Please select a construction location. Could you check how many locations within 50 nautical miles of the branch meet the maximum construction depth requirement? Ling. Yes, a 10,000 merit point query fee is required. Please confirm if you wish to proceed. Confirm query. Li Yan gritted his teeth. He'd come this far. 10,000 merit points wouldn't make a difference? Ding. Scan complete. 7 locations within 50 nautical miles of the branch have been found that meet the criteria. The system quickly reported the results. The closest was only 15 nautical miles from Corona Island, while the furthest was 48 nautical miles away. Needless to say, the closer the better. Too far, and if something happened, reinforcements wouldn't arrive in time. Use location number 1 from the search results to begin construction. Ding. Construction location confirmed. Estimated construction period 20 days. Ding. Upon completion, the system will give the host 2 specially designed submarines for transporting prisoners. Looking at the system's notification, Li Yan nodded in satisfaction. This time should be just enough for him to return from the Grand Line. Chapter 61 Seeking to be tortured 10 times. For 10 whole days, Li Yan devoted all his time to honing his swordsmanship. However, even with the aid of a 10-fold gravity chamber, his swordsmanship progress was still extremely slow. His swordsmanship, which had reached LV 50 before his last voyage, had only increased by a little over 3% in the past 10 days. For a swordsman of his caliber, the improvement from solitary practice was far too little. It was precisely because of this that Li Yan became increasingly urgent about his plan to build a warship capable of freely navigating calm seas. At this moment, he finally understood why, in the original story, the pirates of the Four Seas only began to surge in strength after entering the Grand Line. Real combat, especially combat with strong opponents, was the best catalyst for improving strength. Continuing to remain confined to the East Blue would only lead to slow decay. In fact, among the Four Seas, the East Blue and South Blue were the weakest. Although the pirates in the South Blue were stronger than those in the East Blue, they were still much weaker than those in the West Blue and North Blue. The reason for this lay in their geographical locations. Those who have read the original manga know that the map of the One Piece world is divided into 4 parts by the Red Line and the Grand Line, forming a cross shape, the East, South, West, North, and Blue. Due to this unique geographical environment, the Four Seas are not interconnected. For example, if someone wants to go from the East Blue to the South Blue, there are only 2 ways. One is to first sail to the Red Line, then disembark and walk across the Red Line to the South Blue side, and then transfer to another ship to continue sailing. The other is to directly cross the calm belt into the Grand Line, and then cross the calm belt on the other side to reach the South Blue. The area between the calm belts of the East and South Blues is the first half of the Grand Line, Paradise. The area between the West and North Blues is the second half of the Grand Line, the New World. Therefore, pirates in the New World usually don't go to the East and South Blues, because it's too troublesome. They would have to return to the first half and cross the calm belts first. And 99% of the pirates in the first half don't have the ability to cross the calm belts, making it even less likely they would go to these 2 seas. This is one of the fundamental reasons for the weakness of the East and South China Seas. It can be said that these two seas are the most isolated from information about the first half of the Grand Line, Paradise, and even the second half, the New World. Therefore, their weakness is not surprising. After all, their vision is too limited. However, correspondingly, once they possess the ability to traverse the calm belt, the East and South China Seas become the most suitable, allowing them to freely enter and exit the first half of the Grand Line. As for the West and South China Seas, even with the ability to traverse the calm belt, they can only freely enter and exit the New World, not Paradise. The first half remains a place they can only enter, not exit. And without experiencing the trials of the first half of the Grand Line, the consequences of directly entering the New World are easily imaginable. Therefore, once they have warships capable of traversing the calm belt, Li Yan himself and his Marines can experience an explosive surge in strength through the trials of the first half of the Grand Line. Sheathing his storm blade, Li Yan slowly walked out of the gravity training room. However, to his surprise, Mamao Siji was already standing outside the door. Finally out. Do you know I've been waiting for an hour? Waiting for me? Why? Li Yan was completely bewildered. My relationship with Mamao Siji isn't that close, is it? Wait. Mamao Siji seems different now. Is that sword intent emanating from her? You succeeded? Yes, hurry up, let's practice. No, in Jian, a great swordsman like you is using me, a novice swordsman, as a test of your sword? Are you sure you're not just using this as an excuse to beat me up? No, impossible. How could Jian do such a thing? Although Mamao Siji denied it 3 times in a row, her evasive eyes betrayed her true thoughts. Good grief, it seems she really was planning this. Ding, the system has issued a special mission, sparring with Mamao Siji 10 times in one day. Upon completion, you will receive a reward, 1 opportunity to upgrade a designated talent. Current score: 0/10. Just as Li Yan was about to refuse someone's unreasonable request, the system's notification sounded in his mind. Hey, you trash system, aren't you a little bored and want to watch yourself get humiliated for some amusement? Ding, the system will not, cannot, and has no need to do so. Okay, even systems these days deny everything. What else could Li Yan say? Besides, 1 opportunity to upgrade a designated talent was indeed tempting. So what if he got humiliated by Mamao Siji 10 times? Even Han Xin suffered the humiliation of crawling between someone's legs back then. What's the big deal? Come on. Although somewhat resistant, under the temptation of the reward, Li Yan decisively abandoned his dignity. Alright, I've also hit a bottleneck recently and want to spar with a master swordsman to get some inspiration. Let's make it clear, if we're going to spar, we'll spar a lot. No problem. Mamao Siji immediately replied, a slight smile playing on her lips. Why refuse a good thing when someone's offering to beat him up a few more times? About 2 hours later, Li Yan and Mamao Siji arrived at a deserted island more than 10 nautical miles away on a warship. After all, Mamao Siji had become a great swordsman, and Corona Island couldn't afford her antics. Looking at Li Yan a dozen meters away, Mamao Siji slowly drew her golden kunro, and a powerful sword intent emanated from her body. The original work didn't explain the difference between a swordsman and a great swordsman in detail. Li Yan only learned this after arriving in this pirate world. Although both could unleash flying slashes, they were fundamentally different. A swordsman's flying slash merely releases their sword energy through a slashing motion, while a great swordsman incorporates their mastered sword intent into it, granting it far greater destructive power. Simply put, one simply releases sword energy, while the other uses it after defending against a specific sword energy attack. At this moment, the almost tangible sword intent emanating from Mamao Siji is the hallmark of a great swordsman. Be careful, don't die. Slash wave. Whoosh. Like the air vibrating, a massive, pink slash carrying a peculiar aura hurtled towards Li Yan. He wanted to greet Mamao Siji, but there was no time to speak. The hairs on Li Yan's body stood on end. His body was screaming warnings. A direct hit would be certain death. Fortunately, while the slash wave was powerful, its speed wasn't particularly fast, and Li Yan managed to dodge it at the last second. You crazy woman, are you trying to kill me? What did you call me, Zhanbo? Upon hearing Li Yan's words, a grid appeared on Mamao Siji's forehead, followed by another flying slash. The earth was cleaved, the air wailed, and Li Yan was fleeing for his life. Yes, he was fleeing, desperately fleeing. Mamao Siji continued to unleash flying slashes, one after another. If she hadn't controlled the speed of her attacks, allowing Li Yan to barely dodge, he would probably have been sliced into countless pieces by now. Damn system. You want me to face this crazy woman 10 times over? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Target, Magic Valley Town. Heaven knows how he survived that day. Anyway, as night was about to fall, Li Yan finally heard the system's heavenly notification. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing a special mission. Spar with Momousaji 10 times in one day, gaining one opportunity to upgrade a designated talent. Originally, Li Yan thought this mission would be simple, 10 sparring matches. He could just concede at the start of each one. But reality gave Li Yan a resounding slap in the face. That crazy woman didn't give him a chance to admit defeat, unleashing a barrage of slashes. He either had to dodge with all his might or die. Crucially, Momousaji controlled her attacks perfectly. As Li Yan's movement slowed, the speed of her slashes also decreased accordingly. She ensured that even with full force, he could dodge, but without immediately ending the fight. She even occasionally mocked him, saying his stamina was lacking. In this way, each sparring match lasted at least an hour before Momousaji would let Li Yan go, giving him only 10 minutes of rest before moving on to the next match. If it weren't for his unique high-speed recovery ability, he probably wouldn't have lasted even 10 minutes. Li Yan thought to himself, he really couldn't handle a woman like this. System. Use the designated talent upgrade opportunity on swordsmanship. Ding. Host's swordsmanship talent upgraded to SS level. Li Yan. Rank. Colonel. Position. Commander of the 18th Branch Base of the East China Sea Navy. Power value. 650. Martial arts level. B level talent. LV. 38. 20%. Swordsmanship level. SS level talent. LV. 53. 85%. Devil fruit. None. 3 types of haki. Armament haki LV. 0. Awakening 57%. Observation haki LV. 0. Awakening 65%. Conqueror's haki LV. 0. Unawakened. Special talent. SS level combat talent. Exclusive ability. High speed recovery LV. 15. Skills. Navy 6 styles. Shave LV. 35. 15%. Navy 6 styles. Iron body LV. 32. 65%. Navy 6 styles. Paper drawing LV. 30. 25%. Navy 6 styles. Moonwalk LV. 20. 35%. Navy 6 styles. Tempest kick LV. 5. 15%. Navy 6 styles. Finger pistol LV. 4. 25%. The instant his swordsmanship talent increased, Li Yan received a system notification that his swordsmanship ceiling was no longer limited to top-tier swordsmen, but had risen to the level of a beginner great swordsman, meaning he could reach a maximum of LV. 79. However, if he wanted to become an intermediate or top-tier great swordsman in the future, he would still need to further improve his swordsmanship talent. What Li Yan was curious about was that if SSS level swordsmanship talent could already expand the ceiling to the level of a top-tier great swordsman, what about X level talent? Could it be that in the swordsmanship system of the One Piece world, there were other realms above the great swordsman level? Well, these aren't things I should be concerned about right now. There are still 10 months until my 1-year agreement with Momousaji. Currently, the gap between us in swordsmanship, calculated by the system, is 27 levels. As for our power level and the 2 types of haki, the gap is even greater. To win this 1-year agreement, Li Yan needs to become stronger so he can show this crazy woman in 10 months just how serious the consequences of looking down on his lack of stamina are. The next day, apart from 10 elite marines who stayed at the branch, the rest of the branch boarded Momousaji's super warship. It has to be said that this warship is simply a paradise for men, with all female soldiers, and each one is youthful and beautiful. Some marines were constantly swallowing their saliva after boarding, otherwise they would have been drooling all over the place. This sight infuriated Old Master Thor, who immediately dragged more than 100 men to the deck at the stern of the warship for crazy training, giving them no time to think about anything else. As for Li Yan, he was at the bar discussing the plan with Momousaji. "You said you're going to Mock Town?" After hearing Li Yan's words, Momousaji's beautiful eyes widened. looking at him with disbelief. Mocktown wasn't a dangerous place for Momousaji, but for the East Blue Branch's Marines, it was an incredibly terrifying place. There, pirates with bounties over 10 million were commonplace, sometimes even tens or hundreds of millions of bounties. It was simply a place the East Blue Branch couldn't afford to go. Yes, there are more pirates there, no need to search everywhere. Just because of that? Well, Li Yan's reason for choosing this place was that simple. One reason, as he himself said, was that he wouldn't need to waste energy searching for pirates, since pirates were practically everywhere in Mocktown. The other reason was the pirates' strength. Those pirates with bounties over 10 million would be good training grounds for Luffy and his crew, and if they encountered someone with a bounty over 100 million, with him and Najiko around, there wouldn't be much of a problem. Besides, even if there were any problems, there was still this crazy woman. Momousaji was initially speechless at Li Yan's reasoning, but after careful consideration, she realized it made sense. The strength of the Marines in the 18th branch, as well as Li Yan, Najiko, and others, couldn't be judged by ordinary naval branch standards. They were even stronger than some branches on the Grand Line. In that case, Mocktown didn't seem so dangerous for them. Oh well, why worry so much? If things really got dangerous, she could just rescue them herself. By the way, after Moko Town, I'll need to trouble Vice Admiral Jian to take me to Water 7. Water 7? What are you going there for? Isn't there a half-finished super warship that the Marshal gave us at the branch? I need to find a good shipwright to finish the construction, right? Oh, okay, I'll take you there then. But is the funding for the 18th branch enough? After hearing Li Yan's explanation, Momousaji remembered that the super warship that headquarters had commissioned Water 7's Carrera Company to build was given to Li Yan after only the hull was completed. At the time, this news was quite shocking at headquarters. After all, it was a super warship, even if it was only half finished. The result was that this super warship, which Shivan headquarters only had 8 of, was given to a branch in the East Blue by Marshal Sengoku, which even many headquarters officers found absurd. Momousaji was naturally aware of this, so after Li Yan explained the reason, she didn't think much of it. She was simply wondering if Li Yan had that many berries. After all, it was a super warship. Even if only the hull was completed, the remaining construction work and supporting equipment would cost hundreds of millions of berries. Berries, Li Yan muttered to himself, a slight smile playing on his lips. After going to Moga Town, will I still be worried about not having enough? Chapter 63 Jian, do you need another accessory for your leg? The distance from the 18th branch to Mocktown is actually quite short, even shorter than to Laga Town. Of course, this is on the premise that you can cross the calm belt. At this moment, Momousaji's warship has already entered the calm belt, known as one of the most dangerous places in the pirate world. Here, there is no wind or current, and ordinary ships would be trapped due to lack of power. But this is not the biggest reason for the calm belt's danger. The real danger lies in the Sea Kings, which are more numerous than in any other sea in the pirate world, and they are all enormous. Compared to the Sea Kings that are long brought to the East Blue and was eaten by Li Yan, their size is simply incomparable. Sea Kings thousands of meters long are commonplace here, and some even reach nearly 10,000 meters in size. And this is the biggest reason for the calm belt's danger. Even the Navy's super warships are just a bite away from them, not even a snack. Arriving here for the first time and listening to the explanations from the female soldiers on the warship, the Marines of the 18th branch were all incredibly nervous. After all, Sea Kings, some reaching depths of several thousand meters or even close to 10,000 meters, were far beyond their current understanding. Especially Usopp, whose legs were shaking so violently that Li Yan even considered turning him into a human engine. However, a few were different from these Marines. First was Luffy, who didn't even know where he got his fishing rod from and started fishing on the side of the ship. Then there was Nami, who was very interested in the climate, environment, and ocean currents of the Grand Line, and was pestering the navigator on the Momousaji warship for answers. Finally, there were Buggy and Najiko. Buggy looked at these Marines of the 18th branch with disdain. As a former crew member of the Pirate King, even as an apprentice, he was very knowledgeable. In his eyes, these Marines who had never left the East Blue were just a bunch of country bumpkins who had never seen the world, and he was absolutely right. Najiko remained remarkably calm. After all, she was a user of the Rumble fruit. She could fly, you know? Most importantly, Najiko's observation haki was already at a certain level, allowing her to sense the enormous creatures beneath the sea. However, they seemed completely unaware of the warship she was on, showing no reaction even as it passed nearby, as if the warship were invisible. The comm belt wasn't actually that wide, it only took about half a day to cross. There were no unexpected incidents along the way, and they arrived at the Grand Line. Then, Lian saw something that made his mouth water: the log pose. It was a complete set of hundreds of standard log pose, covering most of the major islands on the Grand Line. In truth, these things were more precious than ships on the Grand Line. According to the original work, ordinary log pose needed to recharge their magnetic field after reaching each island before they could continue their journey. This caused several problems. One was the inconsistent charging time. Some islands could be fully charged in just a few hours, while others required months or even a year to fully charge, like Little Garden in the original story, where the log pose took a year to fully charge. Another issue is that while the log pose could guide you through the Grand Line and prevent you from getting lost, it also meant you were limited to a fixed route, unable to go back or reach islands on other routes. In other words, you were completely adrift, with no freedom whatsoever. Therefore, the Eternal Log was born. It directly solved the two major flaws of the log pose, allowing ships to travel freely through the Grand Line, going wherever they wanted. Vice Admiral Jian, this set of Eternal Logs. What, you want it? Seeing Li Yan staring at the Eternal Logs in the box, almost drooling, Momousaji knew exactly what he was thinking, and a slight smile appeared on her lips. Actually, you can apply for this directly from headquarters, it's not anything too rare. However, it's only available to branches on the Grand Line or headquarters officers. Li Yan was a little excited after hearing the first part of Momousaji's sentence. So, you can get this just by applying? But when Momousaji finished the second part, Li Yan's face fell. Damn it, only branches on the Grand Line can apply. Damn it, only headquarters officers can apply. Are my 4C's branches inherently inferior? Okay, compared to branches on the Grand Line, the 4C's branches really are inherently inferior, even their ranks are treated 2 levels lower. For example, Li Yan's colonel rank is actually equivalent to the major rank at headquarters. But it's not impossible. I can give you mine, and I'll report it lost and apply for a new one? Tell me, what are the conditions? After hearing Momousaji's words, Li Yan didn't get excited, but frowned slightly. Would Momousaji be that kind? Li Yan scoffed at this, demanding a clear explanation of the conditions first. Before I came, Sister He mentioned something about the new rifles manufactured by the 18th branch. I think it's called the Corona Type 18, right? It should be the kind your Marines are carrying now, right? You want this? That's right. I've already submitted all the design drawings. With your status, being among the first to be equipped shouldn't be a problem, right? There's a problem, a huge problem. Sister He said the science department has thoroughly understood the blueprints, but there are some issues with the materials. They need time to solve the mass production technology for the materials before they can mass produce the Corona Type 18 rifle. Currently, they can only produce a small batch in the laboratory. Well, after hearing Momousaji's explanation, Li Yan remembered. He had predicted that headquarters wouldn't be able to solve the material problem within a few months, and they could only produce a small batch for trial use in the laboratory at a high cost. And the small-scale laboratory production cost was at least 10 times the standard cost. Therefore, small-scale production wasn't a problem, but a full-scale replacement of the Navy's equipment was simply impossible before the mass production technology for the materials was solved. Later, Kizaru did indeed call to inquire about the material issue with Li Yan. Li Yan, already prepared, naturally informed him that mass production was impossible. Levin had synthesized a small batch of materials in a laboratory at a high cost, and those materials had already been exhausted by the few dozen Corona Type 18s. This was consistent with Vegapunk's account to Kizaru, so no one suspected Li Yan was lying. Based on this, headquarters could only have Vegapunk synthesize some materials first to manufacture a batch of Corona Type 18s for trial use. The issue of large-scale replacement would be addressed after the material problem was resolved. Finally, the limited number of Corona Type 18s were directly seized by the 3 admirals. Momousaji hadn't even seen what they looked like. Li Yan pondered this for a moment. Producing a batch from Momousaji wasn't a problem, but some things needed to be discussed beforehand, otherwise, some of whose secrets would be exposed. Vice Admiral Jian, I can produce the Corona Type 18, but as you've probably heard, The problem lies in the materials. The issue of mass production of those materials remains unresolved, making the Corona Type 18 extremely expensive. I know, price isn't an issue. Produce enough for my ship's sailors to be equipped, is that all right? No problem? There's a problem, a huge problem. Sister, your super warship has over 500 sailors, right? If we go by 10 times the cost you just mentioned, that's equivalent to the standard cost of 5,000 Corona Type 18 rifles. Are you sure you can afford that? The unit price alone would skyrocket to 500,000 berries, and 500 Corona Type 18 rifles would be 250 million berries. With ample ammunition, it'd go straight to 300 million berries. Are you sure you have that much money? In short, 300 million berries for 500 Corona Type 18 rifles, plus 500,000 rounds of ammunition. Is that okay or not? Deal. Wow. This woman is rich. Do you need any accessories for your thigh? Li Yan couldn't help but swallow hard, staring at Momousaji's thigh. Naturally, Li Yan wouldn't refuse Momousaji's request and readily agreed. He was joking, 10 times the profit, plus the fact that he wouldn't reveal his material synthesis formulas and mass production technology. Who would refuse such a good deal? However, Momousaji's next sentence made Li Yan somewhat vulnerable. Navigator, how many sets of eternal pointers do we have on board? 3 spare sets, Vice Admiral. Go get 1 set for Colonel Li Yan. Yes, Vice Admiral. What? You have 3 spare sets? He had initially thought Momousaji only had 1, and after giving it to him, he would have to write a report, go through the procedures, and apply for another set, possibly even getting scolded by Fleet Admiral Sengoku for losing a pointer. But what happened? Was he just naive and had been deceived by this woman? The joy of the lucrative order was instantly dampened. Chapter 64 Electromagnetism, Railgun. Bang! 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 On a stretch of sea in the Grand Line, a massive warship maintained a distance of 150 meters from the side of a pirate ship. It neither fired its cannons nor approached, but instead, dozens of Marines were firing their rifles. The whole scene seemed incredibly incongruous. The reason for this incongruity was that everyone knew the maximum effective range of the Navy's standard flintlock muskets was only 100 meters. The crucial point was that the warship was currently 150 meters away from the pirate ship, yet the Navy was using rifles to completely suppress the pirates, preventing them from raising their heads. Vice Admiral, this gun is fantastic. It has great penetrating power, a long range, and is extremely accurate. Most importantly, it's easy to load and can fire 8 bullets in succession. If all our warships were equipped with these Corona Type 18 rifles, the combat effectiveness of ordinary Marines could conservatively increase 3-fold. After borrowing a gun from Li Yan and firing 8 bullets herself, Lieutenant Commander Heiwei, Momousaji's adjutant, was extremely excited. As the best marksman among Momousaji's subordinates, she knew better than anyone just how powerful the Corona Type 18 rifle was. Hearing Heiwei's words, Momousaji was somewhat surprised. He had initially thought that the new rifle would at least increase the combat effectiveness of ordinary Marines by 50%, but his adjutant told him it could increase it by a full 3 times, and that was a conservative estimate. Vice Admiral, the standard rifles we've been using only have a range of 100 meters, and their firing rate is slow, not to mention the bullets have very poor penetration. Any pirate with sufficient physical skill can even ignore rifle bullets. But the Corona Type 18 is different. It has an effective range of 600 meters, can fire 8 bullets continuously with a single reload, and these new bullets are almost impossible for anyone other than a special devil fruit user or an awakened user of armament haki to withstand. In other words, this gives ordinary Marines the ability to pose a threat to pirates with bounties of tens of millions from 600 meters away. Hiss. After hearing Heiwei's explanation, Momousaji truly realized the significance of the Corona Type 18 rifle. In the past, even an ordinary Marine, let alone an elite Marine, would likely struggle to take down pirates worth tens of millions of berries one-on-one, let alone pirates worth tens of millions. But according to Heiwei, after using the Corona Type 18 rifle, these ordinary Marines could even threaten pirates worth tens of millions. At this moment, Momousaji felt that Heiwei's claim of a 3-fold increase in combat power was indeed conservative, extremely conservative. Li Yan, how long will it take for the 500 Corona Type 18 rifles to arrive? With money in hand, delivery within a month. Seeing Momousaji's drastically changed expression, Li Yan's lips curled slightly, and he calmly replied. Can't you speed it up? Sure, but more money. I think you're obsessed with money. Hearing this, Momousaji said irritably. Sure, but more money? More money? My foot. It's already 500,000 berries per rifle. I've given you all my savings over the years, and you still want more money? Do you think I'm stupid and rich? If Li Yan knew what Momousaji was thinking at that moment, he would definitely say, that's right, I just think you're stupid and rich. I'll have someone send the money over right now. Either when I send you back to the branch, I can see 500 guns and 500,000 rounds of ammunition, or I'll send you back to the East Blue right now. You choose. Don't you know a man's word is his bond? Sorry, I've never been a man. I've changed my mind, so what? Faced with Momousaji's shamelessness, Li Yan wanted to stand up for herself, but unfortunately, she lacked the confidence to do so. Fine, you're ruthless. Hurry up and send the money to the 18th branch. I'll have Levin and his entire team stop everything else and work overtime for you. Is that all right? You should have done this earlier. With the air of a victor, Momousaji patted Li Yan on the shoulder, then took out a denden mushi and called Vice Admiral Churu, asking her to send 300 million berries to the 18th branch, promising to return it to her upon returning to headquarters. Churu naturally wouldn't refuse Momousaji's request, simply asking what it was before hanging up the denden mushi. Looking at the smug Momousaji, Li Yan sighed slightly, then ignored her and continued looking at the pirate ship over 100 meters away, which was being used as target practice by the Marines. Ding. Private Lard under the host's command successfully killed a pirate with no bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Ding. Lieutenant Larnus under the host's command successfully killed Kurt, with a bounty of 9 million berries, gaining 45,000 merit points. Ding. Private Usopp under the host's command successfully killed Sitches, with a bounty of 27 million berries, gaining 135,000 merit points. Ding. Private Usopp under the host's command successfully killed Emilo, with a bounty of 18 million berries, gaining 90,000 merit points. Ding. Private Fies under the host's command successfully killed a pirate with no bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Ding. System notifications flash continuously, and Li Yan's merit points continue to increase. The most outstanding player in this battle was Usopp. He truly lived up to his title as the future king of snipers, even managing to snipe the pirate captain, the 27 million bounty Sitches, with a single shot to the head. Amazing. But while some rejoiced, others lamented. Luffy, standing to the side, looked like a wronged little wife. As for Najiko, she seemed lost in thought. Colonel, based on the teacher's guidance, I've devised a new technique using the rumble fruit. May I try it out? Teacher? Before Li Yan could speak, Momousaji asked first. She naturally recognized Najiko. In fact, she was nearby when Najiko ate the rumble fruit, and even had a sparring match with her afterward. But she hadn't heard Li Yan mention Najiko having a teacher. Yes, his teacher is Admiral Kizaru. He just became his apprentice not long ago. What? Admiral Kizaru? Upon hearing Li Yan's answer, Momousaji was stunned, as were Heiwei and several other female soldiers beside her. Admiral Kizaru had taken on a disciple? It was unheard of in the Navy for an admiral to take on a disciple. Besides the rumble fruit, did Najiko possess some special quality that would make Admiral Kizaru set this precedent? At this moment, their gazes towards Najiko changed completely. No matter what, as long as this girl didn't betray the Navy, her future was absolutely limitless. If I remember correctly, your name is Najiko, right? Yes, Vice Admiral. Then give it a try. I also want to see how far you can utilize the rumble fruit after being instructed by Admiral Kizaru. Yes, Vice Admiral. After saluting, Najiko slowly walked to the side of the warship and raised her right hand. Instantly, lightning flashed and crackled around her right hand. No matter how he looked at it, this pose gave Li Yan a strange sense of familiarity. Just as Li Yan was thinking this, he suddenly noticed that Najiko was holding a coin in her right hand and tossing it into the air. Could it be that he had wandered into the wrong movie set? At this moment, Li Yan was a little confused. He suddenly remembered why Najiko's movements looked so familiar. Wasn't this Misaka Mikado's railgun? What exactly did Kizaru teach Najiko? As the coin tossed into the air began to fall, Najiko seemed to transform into Thor, his entire body crackling with lightning, especially his outstretched right hand, which crackled with terrifying lightning. Soon, The coin fell and landed precisely at Najiko's outstretched right hand. Electricity generates magnetism. Railgun. Chapter 65 Strategic Significance. With a low shout from Najiko, the copper coin transformed into a red beam of light the instant his thumb flicked out, hurtling towards the pirate ship. Almost without time to react, the powerful kinetic energy instantly blasted the pirate ship into the air. Hiss. Watching this, Momousagi gasped sharply. Even if she could detect the attack with her observation haki, her body probably wouldn't have enough time to dodge. The key was the power. Without armament haki, a direct confrontation would be certain death. But was that beam of light truly the power of the rumble fruit? It didn't seem like it. It resembled Admiral Kizaru's laser beam more like it. Well, it's understandable that Momousagi thought that way, since the visual effect did indeed resemble Kizaru's laser beam, only red. Meanwhile, Li Yan immediately opened Najiko's attribute panel and was surprised to find 2 new skills in his skill list. Electromagnetic Cannon LV, 1, 50%, Electrothermal Cannon LV, 1, 0%. Wow, besides the electromagnetic cannon, they've even made an electrothermal cannon? Najiko, did Admiral Kizaru teach you how to convert electricity into magnetism and heat? No, my teacher just told me that he heard Vegapunk say that electricity can generate magnetism and heat, but he didn't know the specifics of how to convert them. I only found the trick in the last few days. Vegapunk? That's right, right? No wonder. As the manager of the Navy Science Department, even if Kizaru doesn't have the knowledge of a scientist, he must have occasionally heard Vegapunk talk about things. But the truly amazing one is Najiko. Kizaru just mentioned it, and she found the trick of conversion and even developed 2 new skills? In this way, the versatility of the rumble fruit will become terrifying. The electrothermal property alone is enough to make Akainu call him daddy. Akainu always boasts about his high temperature, and he even looks down on the flame fruit for its low temperature, calling it an inferior fruit. But he probably doesn't realize that when it comes to temperature, the rumble fruit is the most powerful. If mastered, it can generate temperatures 3 to 5 times the surface temperature of the sun. In that case, what's the magma fruit? In other words, given enough temperature, it could even counteract Akainu's elemental transformation. So Ainel really suffered from not studying hard enough. He made the most powerful fruit in One Piece look so useless. Ding. Captain Najiko under the host's command successfully killed Reno with a bounty of 12 million berries, gaining 60,000 merit points. Ding. Captain Najiko under the host's command successfully killed Cardis with a bounty of 6 million berries, gaining 30,000 merit points. Ding. Captain Najiko under the host's command successfully killed Set with a bounty of 5 million berries, gaining 25,000 merit points. Ding. Captain Najiko under the host's command successfully killed a pirate without a bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Ding. Captain Najiko under the host's command successfully killed a pirate without a bounty, gaining 100 merit points. Ding. Just as Li Yan was complaining about Akainu, his mind was once again flooded with system notifications. Najiko instantly killed 3 pirates with bounties and more than 40 ordinary pirates without bounties with a single move. Her efficiency was terrifying. Li Yan suddenly realized that he had gained nearly 80 million military merits and almost 400,000 merit points in this wave. And this was less than an hour since he entered the Grand Line. If he encountered another pirate crew along the way, he'd probably have completed the test given by Fleet Admiral Sengoku before even reaching Mock Town. Tisk, the Grand Line is truly a wonderful place. Moreover, judging from Najiko's current accumulated military merits, he could already be promoted again. However, as the branch's base leader, Li Yan's maximum authority was only to grant the rank of captain. To be promoted to colonel, he would have to report to headquarters, and then headquarters would conduct a merit verification and assessment before he could be promoted. Should he have Momousagi take him to headquarters after the Mock Town incident? After all, if they continued like this, several people in the branch would probably reach the 50 million military merits required for promotion to colonel. Look, even that cowardly long-nosed guy has nearly 50 million merits in one battle, and he's showing off over there. Hey Luffy, I took down their captain and first mate in one fell swoop. Why didn't you do anything? HMPH, I don't even look at these petty pirates. Luffy pouted and said against his will. But his look, like a bullied little wife, made everyone around him burst into laughter. But what surprised Momousagi the most was Corona's performance with her 18 styles. Although Najiko wiped them out in one fell swoop, It's undeniable that if things had continued as they were, even without Najiko's intervention, she could have taken care of all these pirates in just a few minutes. Keep in mind, it was only about 50 Marines who did it, and they were all just ordinary Marines, yet they directly suppressed and had absolute power, capable of taking down a pirate crew with a total bounty of over 70 million. This would have been unimaginable before. At this moment, Momausaji's gaze towards Corona's Type 18 rifle became even more fervent. In this pirate world, the ones who inflict the most casualties on civilians are never the large pirate crews, but rather the smaller ones. The Navy, however, focuses most of its attention on the large pirate crews, creating an awkward situation. Ordinary Marines can't defeat the smaller pirate crews, and the higher-ups don't bother with them. This is one reason why the first half of the Grand Line is called Paradise. Otherwise, with the Navy's intelligence and CP organization's capabilities, wouldn't they be able to find out where these pirate crews are? Would the vice admirals and admirals at headquarters be able to catch them? That's impossible. If they really wanted to, they could easily wipe out most of them. But what's the reality? The higher-ups and top-tier forces are almost exclusively focused on the four emperors, while the rear admirals, commodores, and field officers aren't strong enough. They might even be defeated by a supernova pirate crew. Therefore, the Corona Type 18 rifle plays an even more crucial role. It grants ordinary Marines the ability to threaten pirates with bounties in the tens of millions, effectively filling the long-standing gap in the Navy's combat strength. Once the Navy is fully equipped, it will be a devastating blow to smaller pirate crews. The impact doesn't stop there. The significant elimination of pirates in the first half of the Grand Line also means a substantial reduction in pirates entering the New World. Ultimately, this will cut off the supply of fresh blood to the great pirate crews of the New World, even those of the four emperors, from the first half of the Grand Line. Over time, this will lead to a continuous decline in the strength of these New World pirate crews. This is the true strategic significance. Chapter 66 Magic Valley Town. It took less than a day to travel from Calm Sea to Mock Town. Yet, within that single day, they encountered 5 waves of pirates. The Grand Line is teeming with pirates, that's no exaggeration. However, aside from the first pirate crew who earned considerable merit, the remaining 4 were weaklings with a combined crew size of only around 1,000 men. Even so, little by little, they were only 17 million berries away from meeting Fleet Admiral Sengoku's assessment target. Furthermore, Usopp and Luffy had already met the 50 million merit requirement for promotion to Major. As for Larnus, amidst a fierce competition among the Brown Saints, he was still 4 million berries short of 50 million, but that should be enough after dealing with Mock Town. Another thing that delighted Li Yan was that, aside from the first pirate cruise ship being destroyed by Najiko's attack, the other 4 pirate ships had amassed a total of 120 million berries worth of valuables, a veritable overnight fortune. Although regulations stipulated that half of the loot should be handed over to headquarters, with the remainder remaining for branch use, this was merely the wealth of 4 weak pirate crews. The real prize would be in Mock Town. Thinking about the dozens of pirate crews on the island, Li Yan almost shed tears. "Are you sure you don't need me to come with you?" Momausaji asked softly, watching Li Yan struggling to assemble. "No need, Jian, you're too conspicuous, you'll scare everyone away." "Okay, remember to send a signal flare if we encounter danger." Actually, Li Yan wasn't worried about scaring away the pirates, he was afraid she'd steal their kills. A casual slash from the great swordsman would likely take down several bounty-bearing pirates. Those were all military merits, all merit points. "Grandpa Thor, once we arrive on the island, you lead the main force directly into Mock Town from the front. Luffy, Usopp, Buggy, and Najiko will form a small team with me, specifically hunting high bounty pirates. Li Yan, don't underestimate Mock Town. Sometimes pirates with bounties over 100 million appear here. It's alright. If it's just barely 100 million, I can handle it now. Even if it's stronger, with Najiko and me, there shouldn't be any major problems." Yet, that's true. Little Najiko should already have the strength of a rear admiral. If she awakens her armament haki, she won't be any weaker than a vice admiral. Thor nodded in agreement, remembering Najiko's current strength. As long as those pirates with bounties of several hundred million don't appear, Li Yan and the other 4 should be basically safe. Mock Town. In this not-so-small town, there are almost no ordinary people. Whether they are permanent residents or just arrived, 99% are pirates. As for the remaining small group, there were Navy personnel, CP members, and other underworld figures, all disguised as pirates carrying out various missions, primarily intelligence gathering. In a house not far from the bar in the town center, several men dressed as pirates were operating complex equipment, constantly transmitting sounds from the nearby bar, clearly surveillance devices. In reality, they weren't pirates, but rather intelligence agents from Navy headquarters, stationed in Mocktown to gather intelligence by monitoring pirates coming and going. Knock knock. Knock. Knock knock. Just as they were diligently recording their observations, a sudden knocking sounded. Everyone instinctively grabbed their weapons and pointed them at the door. But quickly, after hearing the coded knocking, they breathed a slight sigh of relief. One of them immediately opened the door, remaining vigilant throughout. Something's wrong. What is it? A man also dressed as a pirate quickly entered and spoke as soon as the door opened. This caused everyone inside to tense up. You see, their work is equivalent to infiltrating. If anything goes wrong, they'll only face death, and usually a gruesome one at that. A warship has arrived, a super warship at that. Judging by its design, it should be Vice Admiral Mamausaji, a candidate for Admiral. Vice Admiral Mamausaji. Headquarters hasn't sent any message about taking action against Moga Town. The captain frowned. In his view, what other explanation could there be for a candidate for Admiral arriving in Moga Town besides intending to attack it? After all, such top-tier combat power wouldn't come here without a reason. But the problem is, even if they were going to attack, why send a candidate for Admiral? The crucial part is next. It seems Vice Admiral Mamausaji only sent a group of Marines, because the Vice Admiral and his female soldiers didn't disembark. Of the 100+ Marines who landed on the island, only one was a woman. Major, shouldn't we contact headquarters to inquire about the situation? Hearing the report, the captain was truly bewildered, completely unable to understand the situation. However, he agreed to the Marines' suggestion to check with headquarters first, regardless of the situation, to see what actions were planned, so he could make arrangements accordingly. Burp burp burp. This is Mamwanga. Vice Admiral Mamwanga, this is Major Larrett, the team leader of the intelligence station in Moko Town. Larrett? It's not time for our regular contact yet. What's wrong? Upon hearing it was Larrett, Mamwanga frowned slightly. According to procedure, communication between the intelligence station and headquarters was very meticulous. Unexpected contact was rare unless there were special circumstances. It's like this, Vice Admiral. Just now, Vice Admiral Mamausaji's warship appeared on Jaya Island, and over 100 Marines who weren't under Vice Admiral Mamausaji's command disembarked. They seem to be heading towards Moko Town, so I wanted to inquire whether headquarters is planning any action against Moko Town? Impossible, I haven't received any information about that. Mamwanga denied it without hesitation. As the direct head of the intelligence station in Moko Town, he would definitely be informed if headquarters had any operations, but no one had told him about this, so it couldn't possibly be an authorized operation. Then, was this Vice Admiral Mamausaji's unauthorized action? Wait, Lalide, you just said that the Marines who disembarked from Mamausaji's ship weren't under Vice Admiral Mamausaji's command. Are you sure about that? Yes, Vice Admiral Mamwanga. After all, everyone knows that Vice Admiral Mamausaji's ship is entirely female, but among the 100+ Marines who disembarked, only one is female, the rest are male. Then they certainly shouldn't be Marines under Vice Admiral Mamausaji's command. Nodding, Mamwanga agreed with Lalide's assessment, but still couldn't figure out what was going on. Should he go ask Staff Officer Churu? Lalide, you all stand by and don't act rashly. I'll check the situation first and then contact you. Yes, Vice Admiral Mamwanga. After hanging up with Lalide, Mamwanga immediately contacted Chief of Staff Churu. Burp burp burp. Hello, this is Churu. Chief of Staff Churu, this is Mamwanga. Mamwanga, what's up so late? Well, it's like this. Mamwanga quickly recounted what had happened in Mocktown and asked you if headquarters had taken any action without notifying him. Headquarters hasn't taken any action against Mocktown. I'll contact Jian directly to get the details and then get back to you. Okay, thank you for your help, Chief of Staff Churu. After hanging up the Den Mushi, Churu's expression was somewhat strange. More than 10 days ago, Mamausaji had told her she was going to a good place to break through to the Great Swordsman realm, but she kept that place a secret. And now, how did she end up in Mocktown, leading over 100 male Marines? Although Mamausaji doesn't hate men like some of the 7 warlords of the sea, She usually wouldn't allow so many men on her ship, which is clearly unusual. Oh well, why think so much? Why not just ask? Churu gave a helpless wry smile. This is an old habit of hers as a strategist, something that could be asked directly via Dend and Mushy. She insists on analyzing for ages first. Burp 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 pillow. This is Jian. Chapter 67. Anyone want to turn themselves in? While Mamausaji was on the phone with Churu, Thor's team had already arrived outside Mok Town. The Navy's long-term neglect, coupled with the fact that no Navy had approached for years, had long since lulled the pirates in the town into a false sense of security. As a result, Li Yan and his group hadn't encountered any sentries along their journey to the town's outskirts. Larnus, take 2 rifle squads and set up a defensive line here, block the town entrance, and intercept any pirates trying to escape. Yes, instructor. The rest of you, follow me into the town to wipe out the pirates. Remember, don't go within 100 meters of the bar in the center of town. Yes, instructor. Standing outside the town, Thor was assigning tasks to over 100 Marines. According to Navy intelligence, most of the prominent and powerful pirates gathered in the bar. After all, these pirates weren't there for sightseeing, most were there to trade or gather intelligence, and these kinds of transactions were mostly conducted in that bar. However, the bar was Li Yan's team mission. As for Thor and his 100+ ordinary Marines, their task was to block the town entrance and wipe out the ordinary pirates in Demon Valley Town. After setting everything up, Thor led nearly 100 Marines into battle formation and entered the town. Just as Thor began his operation, Li Yan and his 4 companions, who had already quietly entered the town, approached the bar located in the center of town. It was late at night, and they hadn't encountered many pirates along the way. Most of them were drunk and fast asleep by the roadside. The few who were sober were quickly and silently dealt with by the 3 of them. Why 3? Because Li Yan didn't dare let Luffy and Buggy take action. Those 2 were too troublesome, and they could easily cause a huge commotion. He didn't care about himself and his group, but there were many pirates here. If they were prepared and gathered together, Thor's ordinary Marines would definitely suffer many casualties. Najiko, what's the situation inside? Not far from the bar, in a dark corner, Li Yan asked. There are 71 people in total. 23 of them seem much stronger than the rest. They're probably all pirates with bounties. 4 of them seem incredibly powerful, even stronger than Instructor Thor, especially the one with the sword. As the only one in the team to have awakened observation haki, Najiko immediately transformed into human radar. Hearing this, Li Yan simply nodded, showing no sign of tension. Although Old Man Thor was an elite training camp instructor from the headquarters, he was getting old. His current strength was enough to deal with pirates worth 10 or 20 million, but not those worth tens of millions. So it was normal for Najiko to say that 4 people inside were stronger than Old Man Thor. After all, this wasn't the East Blue, but the Grand Line. Colonel, I suddenly remembered, I have an incurable disease called I'll die if I go into a bar. Just as Li Yan was thinking about how to allocate combat power and begin to act, Usopp's voice came from behind him. The 4 of them were stunned for a moment and turned around to look. If your legs weren't shaking, I might actually believe it. Forget it, I wasn't planning on letting you go in anyway. Find a sniping spot with a wide field of vision and guard the bar door for me. Kill any pirates who come out. Li Yan shook his head and said. Just as Li Yan said. He hadn't planned to let Usopp go in with him. After all, his strength was long-range sniping, not close combat. If he really went in, he would probably have to spare some attention to protect him. So, it was better to let him be responsible for sniping outside to ensure that no one could escape. Yes, Colonel, I'm going now. Upon hearing Li Yan's order, his legs stopped shaking instantly, and he turned around and disappeared in a flash. Sigh, is there such an incurable disease? Is Usopp about to die? Luffy, looking utterly clueless, was spouting the most vicious words. The 3 beside him were speechless, not wanting to pay any attention to him. Colonel, should we just fire a railgun? Let's skip it this time. After all, it's meant for training. If you take them all out at once, how can we train them? Is that so? Hearing this, Rajiko was a little disappointed. Li Yan really wanted to say that the pirates here were specifically for Luffy, Buggy, and Usopp to train. It was already a favor to bring you here, and you still want to take them all out with one shot? Believe me or not, I'll beat you up. But unfortunately, Li Yan, who hadn't awakened armament haki, really couldn't beat Trajiko at this moment. At the same time, in the bar. Unlike the quiet streets outside, this place was like the dance hall in Li Yan's previous life, incredibly noisy. Some were drinking and making a ruckus, some were singing loudly, and some were even competing in arm strength or fighting. The bartender, seemingly oblivious to everything, stood behind the counter mixing cocktails with practiced ease. While he worked diligently, his primary focus was actually on the 4 pirates at the bar, or rather, he was eavesdropping on their conversation. Well, I've got accurate intelligence. Jonathan of the G8 branch received a canoe's summons and has already left with most of the Marines. There are only about 200 Marines left at the branch. More than 20 pirate crews have decided to participate in this operation. If we succeed, we'll not only raid a second-class Marine branch, but also gain immense fame. This kind of opportunity is rare. A pirate with a sword at his waist spoke to the other 3, his face filled with excitement and cruelty. These words caused the bartender's eyes to narrow slightly. These guys were planning to attack a Marine branch, and a second-class branch on the Grand Line at that? Looks like I need to give the Navy a heads up. Boom. Just as the owner was considering reminding the Navy after closing time, a loud crash suddenly rang out, accompanied by a wooden plank hurtling towards the pirate who had just spoken. Of course, these pirates weren't ordinary, and this pirate with a knife was no ordinary pirate either. He simply raised his right hand to block the flying plank, then flicked it aside. The heavy plank slammed into the bar's wall, instantly turning to dust. Good evening, everyone. I'm Li Yan, the base commander of the 18th branch of the East Blue Marines. Anyone want to surrender? With that, everyone realized that what had just been thrown was a wooden plank. It was the bar's door. And now, 4 Marines had just walked in so openly, even asking if anyone wanted to surrender? And this guy claimed to be the base commander of the East Blue branch, the weakest branch in the East Blue? Ho ha ho ha. After a few seconds of stunned silence, the entire bar erupted in laughter. Looking at Li Yan's colonel rank and excessively youthful face, almost all the pirates assumed he was a second-generation heir. Yes, second-generation heirs exist in this world. Spandam, whom everyone knows, is one of the most famous. Incompetence and weakness are the hallmarks of these second-generation heirs. And at this moment, Li Yan was being treated like Spandam by these pirates. After all, this guy, who looked like he wasn't even 20 years old, was already a Marine colonel. What else could he be but a second-generation heir? Alright, it seems no one wants to surrender. Then we'll just have to execute you all on the spot. Chapter 68 The Best Nourishment. The bar suddenly fell silent. Kid, do you know what you're saying? The sword-wielding pirate slowly stood up, his face unfriendly as he looked at Li Yan. Mad Sword Vincent, bounty 88 million berries. Oh, you know me? I've researched all pirates with bounties over 50 million who use swords. I must say, you're qualified as nourishment for my growth. Li Yan, far from being intimidated by an 88 million bounty pirate, seemed eager to try his luck. Luffy, Buggy, Najiko, the rest of you are. Slowly drawing his ranga, Li Yan walked steadily towards Vincent. Just as Li Yan himself had said, he had thoroughly researched all pirates with bounties over 50 million who primarily relied on swordsmanship. And Vincent before him was a pirate who had already reached the level of a swordsman master. Of course, according to the Navy's information, Vincent hadn't reached the second level of a swordsman, since no one had ever seen him use the flying slash. Therefore, a swordsman of the same level as himself naturally became the best nourishment for Li Yan's current path of swordsmanship improvement. Seeing this, all the pirates in the bar jumped to their feet, drawing their weapons or assuming fighting stances. However, Li Yan seemed oblivious to their actions, continuing his slow, deliberate walk towards Vincent. Kid, go to our captain's side, get past me first. Seemingly provoked by Li Yan's actions, a member of the Mad Sword Pirates lunged at him, swinging his enormous fist. But before he could even get close, a bolt of lightning struck him. All consciousness vanished in an instant, tens of millions of volts of electricity concentrated at one point, completely destroying his life force. Captain Najiko, under the host's command, has killed a pirate with a bounty of 18 million, gaining 90,000 merit points. These are all pirates from the Grand Line, and at least some of them are well-known pirate crews. Their knowledge far surpasses that of the people from the East Blue. Just witnessing Najiko's first move, they all had their own guesses. This female marine is at least a Paramecia-type devil fruit user with a lightning-related ability, Possibly even a mythical Zoan type or a Logia type rumble fruit. Either way, she's incredibly difficult to deal with. Of course, if it's a Paramecia type, it's easier to handle, since they're helpless against Logia types and can only passively take the hits. Even with a mythical Zoan type, the situation is similar. After all, most mythical Zoan types are not much different from Logia types, and can be immune to most attacks. Some are even more troublesome than Logia types. Trist, Alan, Tato, these 4 Marines are probably not simple. I'll deal with this guy who claims to be the base commander. You guys handle the other 3 with the others, okay? No problem, leave that female Marine to me. My Devil Fruit ability is specifically effective against electricity. Hearing Vincent's words, Trist immediately said, then licked his lips and looked excitedly at Najiko. As for Alan and Tato, although they didn't say anything, they also stood up and chose their targets. The battle was about to begin. The first to move were Vincent and Li Yan. As if they had planned it, the two leaped forward almost simultaneously. Their speed was so fast that most of the people in the bar couldn't even see how they disappeared. Li Yan's already made his move. Let's get started too. He. Ho ha. Buggy, have a lot of new tricks to try. I hope you guys aren't too weak. You too, sigh. Looking at this pair of clowns, Najiko covered her face, feeling utterly ridiculous. She then turned her gaze to Tristana, the guy who had been staring at her with a disgusting expression since earlier, and recalled the Navy bounty list she had seen. Tristana, a West Blue, possesses the Paramecia type wood fruit, similar to Luffy's gum fruit, granting her the properties of all wood. She has murdered over 300 civilians and has a bounty of 55 million berries. For Najiko, this was indeed a troublesome opponent. After all, the most basic property of wood is its strong resistance to electricity and heat. Based on Luffy's living example, the properties produced by devil fruits far exceed those of the corresponding real materials. Otherwise, how could mere rubber withstand Enel's 200 million volts of electricity? It would have been punctured long ago. Therefore, Najiko didn't hold much hope of defeating this guy using electricity or heat. But who said Najiko's rumble fruit only had electricity and heat? On the other side, Luffy and Buggy also found their opponents, and in the next moment, everyone was in motion. As for Li Yan and Vincent, who were the last to take action, they had already taught each other more than 10 moves. Ding. Kendo proficiency plus 0.5%. Ding. Kendo proficiency plus 0.8%. Ding. Kendo proficiency plus 0.6%. Ding. With each lesson, Li Yan's Kendo proficiency was increasing at a very rapid pace. Indeed, fighting against someone of similar strength was the fastest way to become stronger. Fighting someone like Mamausaji for half a day was just about dodging, without gaining any proficiency at all, completely meaningless. In fact, starting from the 10th move, Li Yan had already had 3 opportunities to injure his opponent, but he stubbornly refrained from doing so. After all, the constant notification sounds in his ears were simply too tempting. If just ordinary sword exchanges could result in such a significant increase, wouldn't breaking through the opponent's sword techniques result in even greater increases? Just as Li Yan was thinking this, Vincent blocked Li Yan's horizontal slash with his sword, then took the opportunity to leap back and assume a fighting stance. Looking at Vincent, who was posing and not moving for a long time, Li Yan was speechless again. If it weren't for the need to improve his proficiency, believe me, I would have gone over and slashed him right now. Why do swordsmen in the One Piece world always act so pretentious when using their sword techniques? Fortunately, this guy didn't chant a long, meaningless monologue like Zoro to liven things up. Frenzied 3 strikes, first form, torrential rain. His right hand, gripping the sword, almost became a blur as he swung it wildly. What should have been a dazzling sword technique was instead marred by the man's crazed expression and the constant spitting of saliva. Li Yan didn't really want to take the hit. It was just disgusting. What if he got sprayed with saliva? But for the sake of practice, he went for it anyway. He instantly activated paper drawing to its maximum power. Li Yan had basically grasped the principle behind this move, sacrificing precision and simply swinging the sword repeatedly and rapidly in a general direction to create an area of effect. In short, it was like someone with superb physical abilities but no kendo skills wildly swinging their sword. Perhaps this move would be very powerful and effective for someone with less skill. But for someone like Li Yan, whose basic swordsmanship was nearly maxed out, it was like a child swinging a toy sword, utterly meaningless. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Gain More Proficiency. One of the fundamentals of swordsmanship is to counter each move, and this is exactly what Li Yan is doing now. For such almost manic and unpredictable sword techniques, using basics is the most correct approach. Clang clang clang. Clang clang clang. Ignoring the attacks that weren't already off target, he precisely parried each threatening strike. Ding. Host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 7%. Ding. Host's swordsmanship level increased to 54. Having blocked all the attacks and hearing the system's notifications in his mind, Li Yan couldn't help but smile slightly. Sure enough, breaking sword techniques yields more proficiency. In that case, bring on more. Use all the sword techniques you know. At this moment, Li Yan's gaze towards Vincent held a new fervor. In reality, in terms of pure swordsmanship, Vincent wasn't inferior to Li Yan, but Li Yan possessed advantages that Vincent lacked. For example, the techniques of the 6 styles of the Navy. For example, a stronger physique. And for example, the near-perfect basic swordsmanship resulting from long-term practice in a 10 times gravity chamber, and so on. With these enhancements, Li Yan was much more adept at dealing with Vincent. Take his recent counter to Vincent's move, for example. If either the paper drawing or the near-perfect basic swordsmanship were missing, it wouldn't have been so easy to break. After all, a swordsman's continuous high-speed slashes, coupled with an area of effect attack without a clear target, are not so easily countered. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. Raging 3 strikes, first form, torrential rain. Vincent, who had immediately retreated after his attack, looked at Li Yan with disbelief. His own attack had unleashed at least 30 consecutive strikes. Precisely resisting wasn't impossible, but one would have to demonstrate the same sword speed and accurately block every strike. This was several times more difficult than Vincent's move. He hadn't seen Vincent use such speed, and he himself couldn't control it, only managing to keep his slashes within a general range. Was it a coincidence? Or? Anyway, another round should tell. Vincent, who had just retreated, immediately assumed the same stance and unleashed the same sword move again. Li Yan welcomed this immensely. Come on, keep unleashing sword techniques, keep attacking. Clang clang clang. Clang clang clang. Having had the experience before, Li Yan faced the same move with more ease, but, ding, host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 1%. Damn system, how come it's only 1%? Ding. Does the host think the same sword technique can always provide 7% proficiency? Please don't daydream, thank you, ding. Also a reminder to the host, after each time the same sword technique is broken, the proficiency increase will decrease by 50 to 90%. What the heck, does that mean if I take this move a third time, I might only have 0.1% left, ding. The host's understanding is completely correct. Okay, although he really wanted to argue with the system, Li Yan held back. After all, he couldn't argue with the system, it held the final say. Besides, the system's explanation wasn't wrong, otherwise it would be considered a bug. Right, when Vincent was reciting his sword move just now, he said frenzied triple strike, first form, torrential rain, right. That means there are at least 2 more moves, right? This move is useless against me now. If you don't have any other moves, I'll send you on your way, bastard. Frenzied triple strike, second form, Warhammer, enraged. Vincent once again assumed a stance, this time a thrusting stance. After a moment of preparation and a loud shout, he lunged at Li Yan again. A thrust, huh? Come on, let me see what's so special about it. Unlike the previous torrential rain move, Vincent's lightning strike sacrificed speed, carefully observing his opponent while moving, holding back until the very last moment before truly unleashing his attack. This was a move that greatly enhanced accuracy and power. As its name suggests, the thrust, like a warhammer, possessed a powerful force that seemed capable of tearing through space as it hurtled towards Li Yan. That's right, it was a deafening boom. It's no exaggeration. Vincent turned his thrust into a brute force hammer blow, and the resulting wind pressure alone caused Li Yan to feel a slight stinging sensation on his face. The power is considerable, but the speed has been minimized for the sake of power. Even without the paper drawing, dodging this move wouldn't be difficult. Having seen through the attack at a glance, Li Yan didn't use the simplest and most effective method, dodging. Instead, he also assumed a thrusting stance and directly clashed with Vincent. In terms of accuracy, even Mimausaji wouldn't be much better than Li Yan. After all, Li Yan trained his basic sword stances under 10 times gravity. It's like adding weight to the barrel when practicing holding a gun. Once the weight is removed, you'll find your grip on the gun becomes incredibly stable. The principle is the same. The next instant, the tips of the two swords collided directly. The immense force of their impact created a shockwave that exploded between the two swordsmen and spread outwards. When the shockwave subsided, the area was a scene of utter chaos, with even some weaker pirates thrown to the ground. Ding. Host has gained 12% swordsmanship proficiency. Sure enough, upon hearing the system notification, Li Yan understood. It wasn't that Li Yan wanted to show off. He could have easily avoided the attack, but he insisted on doing it this way. It was simply that during his sparring session with the Mimausaji, he had spent the entire day desperately dodging, resulting in him not even gaining 1% proficiency. At that time, Li Yan knew that simply dodging wouldn't grant proficiency, since he hadn't even swung his sword. So, could he gain more proficiency by using a more difficult method to counter the enemy's swordsmanship? Therefore, Li Yan tried it out, using what seemed to be the least optimal and most difficult method to counter Vincent's move. The result was naturally gratifying. His swordsmanship proficiency increased by 12%, almost doubling compared to the last time. This is impossible. Vincent, who had just experienced a clash of power and retreated, was stunned. He had attacked first, and had even spent a long time gathering his strength, but what about the opposing Marine? He was almost upon him before the Marine even began to move, and had almost no time to gather his power. Why was the result a draw? No, strictly speaking, he was even slightly at a disadvantage. This wasn't normal, it was extremely abnormal. Perhaps, he had no choice but to use that one move. Chapter 70 The Rumble fruit is being used like Amaterasu. Looking at Vincent before him, Li Yan frowned slightly. He felt the aura emanating from Vincent was completely different, as if Vincent had become a different person. The weapon posed a threat to Li Yan. Navy, you're quite something. A mere East Blue Branch Navy member forced me to reveal my trump card. Having gone this far, even if I die, I have no regrets, right? Vincent gripped the hilt of his sword, raising it high with a sinister grin. This scene triggered a sudden alarm within Li Yan's body, but he couldn't immediately pinpoint the problem. Mad Blade style, flying slash, earth-shattering. As Vincent swung his sword down, a massive white beam of light flew in, clearly surpassing the first level of Swordmaster, iron cutting, and reaching the second level, sword key release, or flying slash. Li Yan's eyes widened in shock. Completely unprepared, and less than 10 meters from Vincent, he had no time to dodge and could only take the hit head-on. Damn the intelligence, damn it, he'd only just entered the Swordmaster realm. Could someone capable of unleashing a flying slash be a swordsman who has just entered the realm of a Swordmaster? Perhaps the intelligence department at headquarters has some misunderstanding about the first stage of Swordmastership? Li Yan mentally cursed as he raised his Storm Fang. Thank goodness, the guy opposite him wasn't Mimausaji, otherwise, there would be no point in trying. Almost the instant Li Yan raised his Storm Fang, Vincent's slash arrived in front of him, nearly knocking the sword from his hand upon contact. Although he managed to grip the sword tightly to avoid losing his grip, the sword energy carried by the flying slash didn't dissipate, and it propelled Li Yan out of the bar. Of course, not through the main entrance, but by crashing through the wall, creating a hole. Even after leaving the bar, he didn't stop until he crashed into a house more than 10 meters away, whereupon the entire house collapsed, burying Li Yan alive. Colonel. Seeing this, Najiko was the first to react, turning to check on the situation. However, a figure blocked her way. It was Drizzt, one of the 4 pirate captains with a bounty of 55 million berries. At this moment, his entire body had turned to wood, even his hands were transformed, one a wooden spear, the other a giant wooden axe. He no longer looked human. You still have the mind to care about him? Take this. To be honest, although Drizzt initially felt his ability could perfectly counter Najiko's electric current, he still had some concerns since he hadn't actually tested it. But after more than a minute of fighting, Drizzt's face had completely lost its worry, a sinister grin spreading across his face as if he had Najiko completely under his control and was merely toying with her. This made Najiko's face turn cold. I was just playing with you. You didn't actually think your wood fruit was effective against me, did you? Isn't it? Your electricity has absolutely no effect on me. Hearing her words, Trista was taken aback at first, then burst into laughter, thinking Najiko was just being stubborn. However, he didn't know that every word Najiko said was absolutely true. She was merely using Trist to hone her combat experience, and in the process, all the skills she used were perfectly controlled. As a result, Trist completely countered Najiko later. Looking at him, Najiko sighed slightly. Your wood spray should be very afraid of fire, right? How did you know? Isn't that common sense? Well, in the world of One Piece, those with common sense are always a small minority, so rare that they can almost be called anomalies. So what? You can't set fires, can you? That's right, I can set fires. Najiko nodded seriously and then said. You're into electricity, aren't you? That's right, but haven't you heard that electricity can generate heat? And once the heat reaches a certain level, it can create fire, like this, continuous discharge. Raising his right hand, the electric current generated by the rumble fruit continuously released, and soon arcs of electricity appeared in the air, constantly striking Drizzt arm. This trick again, you've tried it so many times, electricity has no effect on me. He thought Najiko was going to do something after saying a lot of impressive things, but it turned out to be just releasing electricity? Drizzt looked disdainful. He was a wooden man, how could he be afraid of electricity? You know, the wood fruit is like the rubber fruit, full of bugs. No matter how strong the current is, it can't have any effect. However, Drizzt suddenly noticed some smoke rising from where he was, and his left hand seemed to feel very hot. No, it was already extremely hot. Turning his head, he saw that the wooden spear he had sculpted in his left hand was now on fire, and had become a musket. What did you do? Only then did Drizzt realize that it wasn't just burning, it was pain. Essentially, the wooden spear was his left hand, and burning it was equivalent to his entire left hand being on fire. Nothing, just simulated an arc of lightning and continuously struck your left hand with it. By the way, the telephone I created can reach temperatures of tens of thousands of degrees, and that's continuous. Yes, although Najiko couldn't create the powerful arc of lightning on its own, creating and controlling a small arc was no problem. Even though this arc was very small, it would only leave a pinhole-sized mark on Drizzt's left hand. But once continuously released, tens of thousands of degrees was enough to ignite the wood. Just like crocodile sand fruit is afraid of no one, Drizzt's wood fruit also has a nemesis, fire. Once ignited, it's difficult to extinguish even with water unless you completely submerge yourself in water. While the ability to control lightning, like the gum fruit, exceeded normal limits, the side effects were equally outrageous. The flames were not only difficult to extinguish, but they also spread incredibly quickly, reaching his left shoulder in the blink of an eye and rapidly expanding throughout his body. Tristana was writhing on the ground in agony, trying to put them out, but to no avail. This side effect was truly remarkable. Najiko even doubted whether the flames, ignited by this side effect, would continue to burn even without air. If Li Yan saw this, he would definitely say, "You've turned the rumble fruit into Amaterasu, haven't you? Devil fruits are just that unreasonable." Chapter 71 Fragmentation and Decomposition of All Things. In the ruins a dozen meters outside the bar, host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 3%, it was a flying slash. Well hidden. But why only a 3% increase in swordsmanship proficiency? Is it because I simply took the hit head-on? Beneath the ruins, Li Yan shook his head slightly and smiled bitterly. Actually, he had already activated his iron block when the building collapsed, so he wasn't seriously injured, only his clothes were somewhat tattered. However, after taking a flying slash from Vincent, Li Yan had gauged his level. He was probably only at the second stage of Swordmaster, and hadn't even fully stabilized yet. In that case, it wasn't a big problem. He suddenly flung away the two boulders pressing down on him with his crossed hands, then slowly stood up. Colonel Najiko, who was lighting fires all over Trist while keeping an eye on the situation, shouted happily when he saw Li Yan stand up from the ruins. As for Vincent, his brow furrowed slightly. His trump card, the flying slash, was unleashed suddenly at a distance of only a few meters, striking his opponent squarely. However, judging from Li Yan's appearance, aside from his badly damaged clothes, he seemed unharmed. Looking at Trist, the second strongest of the four, he was already half burnt out, while Alan and Tato were also at a disadvantage. Alan, in particular, had lost an arm and could only frantically dodge, completely unable to retaliate. The situation was dire. Bang! 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 Just then, 3 ordinary pirates who had followed Vincent outside the bar were instantly killed by 3 gunshots rang out in the distance, their heads blown off and they slowly collapsed into pools of blood. This is. Others might not know, but based on his countless battles against the Navy, Vincent knew very well that the gunshots came from at least 500 meters away. To accurately kill 3 of his men from over 500 meters away, 3 men with bounties worth millions, what did that even mean? Even he was somewhat shocked. That range, that speed, that power. If it were just one person, Vincent was confident he could block or dodge the bullets. But if it was more than one person, even if Marines were using such weapons, then even he would be riddled with bullets. Everyone, southeast, to the rooftop 500 meters away, use the building for cover and charge. If we don't take out that sniper first, we're all done for. Thinking this, Vincent shouted to the dozens of pirates from the 4 pirate crews inside the bar. However, as soon as they began to move, the first 2 people who rushed out of the bar. Bang! Bang! 2 consecutive gunshots rang out from afar, and 2 more pirates lay on the ground outside the bar, their heads blown off. A hiss. This scene immediately made the remaining pirates dare not move, and many even overturned the table and hid behind it. Bang! 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 Just then, more gunshots, exactly the same as before, rang out, clearly from the same type of firearm. However, these gunshots came from all over Magic Valley town, followed by screams of agony throughout the town. Even though Vincent hadn't witnessed it firsthand, he had a pretty good idea of what had happened. The Navy, has it launched a full-scale siege of Marktown? And they're using all new weapons. Are they using us as a test subject for their new weapons? Damn the Navy. Okay, the fact is that the Navy did launch a siege of Marktown. But what Vincent didn't know was that it wasn't the Navy headquarters or a branch on the Grand Line that made the move, nor was it an order from the Navy headquarters. It was an obscure branch in the East Blue. Old Man Thor made his move too? Luffy, Buggy, how long are you going to play around? If you can't finish this in 10 seconds, you'll both be cleaning toilets for a month when you get back. Hearing Li Yan's words, the 2 men's expressions changed drastically. What a joke. Being punished by this guy to clean toilets for 3 days last time was already terrifying enough, and now a month? They immediately charged towards their opponent. Gum Gum Fruit Sachet Iron Block. Luffy made the first move, directly using a combination technique, relying on the power of the Gum Gum Fruit to stretch out his hands and grab Tato's shoulders. He then activated the Gum Gum Saw, spinning his body violently in one direction, using the rotational force to attack at high speed like a saw. Of course, this was only the Gum Gum Saw before Luffy learned the 6 powers in the original work. However, after learning the 6 powers, he directly added Shave to increase the impact speed, and after starting the spin, he activated Iron Body, turning himself into a high-speed spinning iron saw. Although the body cannot move when using Iron Body, the continuous high-speed rotation using the rotational force is not subject to this limitation. The power is at least 10 times greater than in the original work. On the other side, Buggy also rushed in front of Alan, and just as Alan was about to dodge, Buggy suddenly knelt down on one knee and pressed his right hand to the ground. Crush and shatter. The ground within a radius of more than 10 meters was cut into countless small squares, like a go board by countless slashes. This wasn't the end. The small cubes that had been cut were then cut into even smaller, more numerous cubes. And it still wasn't over. The cutting continued again and again until, after several seconds, the entire ground had been reduced to countless specks of dust. If you looked under a microscope, you might see that each speck of dust was still a perfectly flat cube. The pirates who had been standing in this area were now sinking in as if they were standing on quicksand. Even Alan, who had tried to dodge, was unable to move because his feet were deeply embedded in the sand. Gotcha. The next moment, a voice rang in his ears, and Alan was horrified to find Buggy floating in front of him, his right hand pressed against his head. Why can this guy fly? After this thought flashed through his mind, Alan quickly activated his Bubble Fruit ability. Full Body Bubble, Bubble Man. That's right, this is the fruit that Califa obtained in CP9 2 years later in the original story. However, Califa had only eaten the fruit a few hours earlier and hadn't fully developed it, so she could only use some basic techniques. But Alan was different. He had eaten the devil fruit for over 2 years and even developed the Bubble Man technique, completely transforming himself into bubbles to temporarily gain abilities similar to Logia-type elemental transformation, intending to use it to resist Buggy's terrifying power. Unfortunately, he encountered Buggy, the guy who, in the original story, turned the Chop Chop fruit into a mere spectacle. Chop Chop, decompose everything. As its name suggests, the decompose everything technique can decompose anything, even Logia-type elements. This is why Li Yan said that Buggy had narrowed his path in developing the devil fruit. A fruit that could supposedly counter all Logia-type elemental transformations was instead turned into a mere spectacle by Buggy. Truly befitting Buggy. The power activated, starting from Alan's head. Even though his entire body had turned into bubbles, even though he no longer had a physical form, the decomposition continued from top to bottom, decomposing and decomposing again. In the end, not even a speck of dust remained. Chapter 72 Nobody knows interrogation better than my men. In just 8 seconds, the two had completed Li Yan's task and both breathed a sigh of relief. They wouldn't be punished by cleaning the toilets. On the pirate side, of the original 4 pirate captains, 1 was dead and 2 were seriously injured, leaving only Vincent. The remaining crew members, after witnessing Alan's complete dismemberment, were too terrified to move. Apart from Vincent, you can distribute the rest yourselves, Li Yan instructed the 3 before heading back to Vincent, this experienced pack. In reality, aside from Vincent's slightly higher swordsmanship level, Vincent was far inferior to Li Yan in every other aspect, not to mention Li Yan's SS-level combat talent. Clang clang clang. Clang clang clang. Even with several opportunities to finish off his opponent, Li Yan didn't, continuing to play a game of countering each move. As for Vincent's flying slash, Li Yan didn't give him any chance to use it. After all, this guy had only just broken through to the second realm of swordsmanship, and his realm wasn't even fully stable yet. Even releasing a flying slash required a long preparation time. Therefore, as long as he wasn't given a chance to dodge, Vincent couldn't unleash his flying slash. Soon, 5 minutes passed. The gunfire that had been raging throughout the town had become sporadic, indicating that Thor's side was nearing its end. Luffy, Buggy, and Najiko had already dealt with the other pirates and were now watching the fight between Li Yan and Vincent as spectators. I feel like Li Yan is holding back? Be confident, remove the feeling, he is. That's right, this guy is incredibly wicked, probably using Vincent as a tool for sword practice. The 3 chatted amongst themselves as they watched the fight, showing no sign of tension. After all, they had already figured out that if Li Yan really wanted to defeat Vincent, he would have done so already. Since he hadn't, it was probably just as Buggy said, he was using Vincent to hone his swordsmanship. Ignoring the 3, Li Yan was thoroughly enjoying himself this time. Clang clang clang. Clang clang clang. Ding. Host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 0.2%. Ding. Host's fleet proficiency increased by 0.17%. Ding. Host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 0.12%. Ding. Host's swordsmanship proficiency increased by 0.18%, although not as much as before. The increase was still quite efficient, and his swordsmanship level broke through from 54 to LV, 55 with over 99% proficiency, almost reaching LV, 56. Li Yan had even planned to immediately finish off Vincent after reaching level 56 in swordsmanship. However, Vincent gave up. After fighting for several minutes, he understood that his opponent was simply using him to hone his swordsmanship, even deliberately creating an obvious opening to confirm his suspicions. As he expected, Li Yan ignored the opening and continued using purely basic swordsmanship, playing a game of parrying and countering. In other words, he was being toyed with. Even if he could defeat the Marine in front of him now, he wouldn't have much strength left. There were 3 other strong guys around, especially that clown-faced one. The scene of Alan being disintegrated into nothingness still sent shivers down Vincent's spine. Therefore, he simply sheathed his sword and stopped fighting. I surrender, he thought. At worst, he'd be locked up in a Marine prison, at least he'd have a chance to escape before reaching impaled down, right? However, Vincent's actions made Li Yan uncomfortable. Looking at his swordsmanship stat on his attribute panel, LV, 55, 99%. Could anything be more frustrating? Absolutely. However, even if Vincent wanted to surrender, it depended on whether someone else agreed. Li Yan had no habit of capturing someone alive who had stained his hands with the blood of too many Marines and civilians. Without waiting for Vincent's incredulous gaze, he placed his sword, Ranga, against Vincent's neck, preparing to slit his throat. This turn of events left Vincent completely bewildered. He had already surrendered, so why was the Navy officer still trying to kill him? Although he wanted to do something, the knife was already at his throat, and he couldn't move rashly. "Colonel, please spare his life." "Who are you?" The bar owner, who had been concealing himself behind the counter since the battle began, suddenly emerged from the bar and stopped Li Yan from killing Vincent. "My name is Terrence, I belong to CP7, and I'm undercover in Moga Town, posing as the bar owner." "Oh, someone from the CP organization. Why are you stopping me?" "Colonel, don't misunderstand. I have absolutely no interest in saving this scumbag, but before that, I hope to extract one last piece of information from him. I hope you can do me a favor." "What information?" Hearing this, Li Yan also became interested. "Speaking of which, this news is also related to your Navy. I overheard the four of them discussing that someone had organized more than 20 pirate crews to take advantage of the fact that Vice Admiral Jonathan of the G8 branch had taken most of his Marines away due to Admiral Akanu's summons, and launch an attack on the branch. However, before they could give more details, you, Colonel, appeared. So, Tulin said with a wry smile, even inwardly complaining that if they hadn't arrived so punctually, there wouldn't have been this troublesome interrogation. "I see. Then let my subordinates interrogate them." Nodding, after all, they meant well, and it concerned his own navy, so Li Yan had no reason to refuse. But let him interrogate them? Forget it, he already had a master interrogator by his side. Even Kiro couldn't hold out for long before confessing. "Colonel, our CP organization is most skilled in interrogation, and besides, time is of the essence. If you were to conduct the interrogation, I'm afraid." "No need. Precisely because time is of the essence, my subordinates should be allowed to complete the interrogation. After all, no one can remain silent for an hour." "No one can remain silent for an hour? That's a bit of an exaggeration, isn't it? Even within the CP organization, which is most skilled in interrogation, the average time for those who eventually spoke was a staggering 17 hours. And that's just the data from those who finally spoke, and those who did represent less than 30% of all interrogations. Especially this Vincent, according to intelligence, he's not someone who's easy to talk to. 1 hour? If you can get anything out of him in an hour, I'll strip naked and jump into the sea." As a member of CP7, Terrence declared that he didn't believe a single word Li Yan had said. Chapter 73 The Pirate's Plan. "This is the person you were talking about, the one who's hard to talk to?" Inside the bar, hearing Li Yan's words, Tulins looked at Vincent, who answered every question and even eagerly interrupted, with a helpless expression. He thought it would take at least a day to pry open Vincent's mouth, but he couldn't even last 20 minutes with that female Marine. However, listening to Vincent's account, even Thor, who had just arrived after a raid, couldn't help but feel a little impressed. These pirates were truly audacious. Not only did they plan to attack headquarters, but they even had a plan to take hundreds of Marines hostage and demand ransom from the Navy. Wasn't that a bit too far-fetched? Although the vice admirals and generals usually ignored them, making them a little arrogant and thinking the Navy was nothing special, they seemed to have gone too far. Did they think that after doing something like this, the top combatants of headquarters would still ignore them like before? Don't be ridiculous. If it were any of the other two admirals, they might have made a deal to rescue the Marines before dealing with them, but if it were Akainu, he might not even bother with any foreplay and would just blow up the entire G8 branch. Fortunately, the plan was in 2 days, and it only took a day to travel from Moga Town to the G8 branch. They could even use the pirates' plan to turn the tables and wipe out those 20-plus pirate crews in one fell swoop. Don't shoot. We're not pirates, we're Marines. Look, these are our identifications. Just as Li Yan was thinking about how to use this information, a voice suddenly came from outside the door. What's going on? Reporting, Colonel, several men dressed as pirates have arrived, but they claim to be Marines and want to see you. Marine? Let them in. Yes, Colonel. Soon, led by several Marines from the 18th branch, 4 men dressed as pirates entered the bar. The leader's eyes widened upon seeing Vincent's miserable state. Colonel, I am Major Larrett from headquarters, currently the team leader of the intelligence station in Moga Town. What can I do for you? Li Yan didn't doubt Larrett's identity. Firstly, it was normal for the Navy to have an intelligence station here, and secondly, Larrett's salute and reporting posture just now didn't seem like those of pirates. Besides, even if he was lying, this excuse was too lame and could be easily exposed with a simple check. It's like this, Colonel, we've been eavesdropping on this bar. We just overheard them preparing to attack the G8 branch, but then... Well, it's the same situation as with Tulane. Li Yan understood why the original work didn't mention the G8 branch being attacked by pirates. It turned out that even if he hadn't appeared, their plans would have been known to the Navy, and they would have made corresponding deployments. This matter is no longer relevant. After our interrogation, Vincent has confessed to all the details of their plan. Ah, Colonel, didn't you only capture Vincent for a little over 10 minutes? That's right. If you don't believe me, you can ask this man. He's Tyrans from CP7. Li Yan pointed to Tyrans beside him, while Lolita and the other three stared wide-eyed, their faces filled with disbelief. Good heavens. I've been in charge of the Moga Town intelligence station for half a year, and I didn't even know this bar owner was one of us? But, if he's from CP7, it's understandable. So you're from CP7. I've always heard that CP7 is the most skilled at interrogation among all CP7 organizations. It's truly well-deserved. You got Vincent to talk in just over 10 minutes. Lolita's praise was genuine, but Tyrans was embarrassed. Please, don't say we CP7 are good at interrogation anymore. This is so awkward. Alright, since Vincent is useless, then... Just as Tulans was about to explain, Li Yan had already drawn his lanyard and walked towards Vincent. Tulans' lips twitched at the sight, thinking to himself, just how much does this Marine hate pirates? He couldn't wait to act after just finishing the interrogation. However, he wouldn't stop him. Pirates deserved to die. Killing them or sending them to impale down was the same. But Lolita, standing nearby, didn't think so. After all, the Marines had regulations. The only course of action for captured pirates was to send them to impale down. Even if execution was necessary, it required an execution order from headquarters. Colonel, you can't. However, although Lolita wanted to stop him, before he could finish speaking, Li Yan had already swung his sword down, slicing it across Vincent's neck. Even as Li Yan slit his throat, Vincent showed a look of relief. What were you trying to say? I will report this truthfully. Whatever. Sheathing his sword, Li Yan turned and left the bar with his men. Damn it, a branch colonel really thinks he's something. I must report this. This is outrageous. Lalite was furious at being ignored by Li Yan. Although Li Yan was a colonel and he was a major, he was a headquarters major. In terms of rank, they were practically equal, and in some respects, his position as headquarters major even held more power than Li Yan's branch colonel position. Yet this branch colonel had actually killed a captured pirate right in front of him, even after he had tried to stop him. What was this if not outrageous? Meanwhile, Tulans looked at Lalite with disdain. Killing a notorious pirate, was it really necessary to get so worked up? Sometimes, excessive righteousness is a disease. Besides, he had witnessed the entire battle from beginning to end. Whether it was Li Yan, his two subordinates, or the sniper 500 meters away, any one of them would be at least a colonel, or even a commodore, in the Navy. Crucially, these people were all incredibly young, clearly future vice admirals or even admirals. Even if it was a branch, could this be an ordinary branch? Would the Navy High Command severely punish them for executing a pirate? Only someone with their brains would do that, right? He ignored Lolita and took out a Den Mushi to make contact. After all, Mocktown had been wiped out. He needed to ask what to do next, whether to end the mission and return. At the same time, Navy Headquarters, Fleet Admiral's office. Churu, you said Li Yan led over 100 Marines to Mocktown, and they should already be fighting the pirates? Yes, I just contacted GN to confirm. That's true. Nonsense. Upon receiving Churu's confirmation, Sengoku slammed his hand heavily on the table. Led over 100 Marines to Mocktown? While there aren't any particularly powerful pirates in Mocktown, is it really a place a branch of the East Blue with just over 100 Marines can go? Besides, do you think I don't know where those 100+ Marines of yours, Li Yan, came from? 100 of them were recruits sent by Smoker to be trained by Thor, pure greenhorns who'd only been training for a little over 2 months. Even the Marines from the other 18 branches had only been training for 3 months, right? Trying to wipe out Mocktown with that kind of crew? Isn't that just ridiculous? True, I remember there's a marine intelligence station in Mock Town, right? Yes, a standard 4-person listening station. Contact them. I need to know the current situation. Okay. Nodding, Churu immediately picked up the Dendenmushi and started making contact. After all, she was the Marine Chief of Staff, and in charge of intelligence. Naturally, she had records of the Mock Town Intelligence Station, including its contact information. Hello, is this Vice Admiral Mwanga? Something's happened in Mock Town. Larrett picked up the Dendenmushi and spoke without hesitation, since only Mwanga usually contacted this Dendenmushi. His words immediately darkened Sengoku's expression. Had something really happened? This is Churu. Larrett, the Fleet Admiral is right here. Immediately give me a detailed account of the situation in Mock Town. Chapter 74. A plan to turn the tide. Hearing the voices coming from the Dendenmushi, Larrett immediately jumped. After all, the highest-ranking officer he usually dealt with was a Vice Admiral, and now one was the Chief of Staff of the Marine Headquarters, and the other was the Fleet Admiral. It would be strange if he wasn't nervous. He immediately recounted everything, not daring to embellish anything. You mean, Li Yan and his 2 subordinates entered the bar and within 20 minutes, they had already wiped out all 4 pirate crews whose captains were worth at least 49 million bounties and successfully pried Vincent's mouth out? Yes, Fleet Admiral. This time, Sengoku's voice came directly from the Dendenmushi, and there was even a hint of surprise in his voice. He had thought that the Fleet Admiral would focus on the last matter, Li Yan's unauthorized execution of the captured pirates, but unexpectedly, Sengoku didn't mention that matter at all, as if he hadn't heard it. By the way, Marshal, the Marines of the 18th branch are using a type of firearm I've never seen before. Apart from Colonel Li Yan and a few others who went to the bar, the other 100+ ordinary Marines, led by a lieutenant colonel, used this firearm to take down hundreds of pirates, including some with bounties of tens of millions. Suddenly remembering something, Larrett added, "This new type of firearm is a top-secret project of our Navy. Keep it to yourself, understand?" "Yes, Marshal." After asking for a few more details, Sengoku hung up the Dendenmushi. "Churu, what do you think of the 18th branch's situation? You're overthinking things again. Don't you have information on any of Li Yan's men? Did you get the complete blueprints for his new gun?" Looking at Sengoku speechlessly, this guy was good in every way, except he always liked to overthink things. To put it nicely, it was caution. To put it bluntly, it was distrust of his subordinates in a persecution complex. Because of this problem, how many neutral members, and even members of the Navy themselves, have been pushed to the side of pirates or the resistance? Besides, now is not the time to talk about Li Yan's 18th branch. The important thing is that those 20-odd pirate crews are planning to attack the G8 branch in 2 days. HMPH, these pirates are getting bolder and bolder. One supernova pirate crew plus 20-odd other pirate crews dare to attack our Navy branch? In that case, let's send them all to impel down. At this point, Sengoku's temper flared. A few pirate crews from the first half of the Grand Line, plus one of this year's supernovas, do they really think the High Command's fighting strength is fake? A few vice admirals could wipe them all out. Sengoku, I suggest headquarters not interfere this time. What? We're not sending a fleet? Are we just going to let them attack the G8 branch? If headquarters or other branches send fleets to reinforce, they might discover it and cancel the plan. So, you're planning to use a ruse to lure them into the G8 branch and then trap them? Sengoku realized his mistake after Churu's reminder. But there was a problem. Those 20+ pirate crews totaled nearly 1,000 people, while the G8 branch only had a lieutenant commander and about 200 ordinary Marines, dozens of whom were even cooks, shipwrights, and other support personnel. Without reinforcements, even if they successfully lured the pirates in and closed the fortress gates, they wouldn't have enough strength to take them down, would they? The reinforcement force can only send one small warship at most. Any more than that will alert them. After a moment's thought, Churu added, "A small warship? That can only carry in 100 or so people at most, right?" "Yes, but the key is who they are." "You mean?" "I checked. There's a small surveillance ship near Moga Town. Have them meet up with Momousaji, then Li Yan and Momousaji can select elite Marines and use this small warship to infiltrate the G8 branch." Wow. Great idea. The frown that had been on his face instantly eased. Momousaji is an admiral candidate, and Li Yan's men are quite strong. With a large number of Corona 18s providing support, dealing with a group of pirates trapped inside the fortress shouldn't be a problem. After all, at Momousaji's level, numbers are irrelevant. Whether it's nearly 1,000 pirates or several thousand, it doesn't matter much, unless there's a pirate with strength close to Momousaji's. And that's impossible. Alright, it's decided. Immediately send that surveillance ship to Moga Town, and issue the mission to Momousaji. 10 minutes later, off J Island, on Momousaji's super warship. Standing on the deck, watching the 18th Branch Marines escorting prisoners onto the ship one by one, Momousaji was still somewhat shocked. Although he knew this would be the outcome when Li Yan led his men off, after all, he was very familiar with the strength of Li Yan and the ordinary Marines. But he hadn't expected it to end so quickly, and among those ordinary Marines, apart from a few lightly injured, there wasn't a single seriously injured person. This far exceeded Momousaji's expectations. However, speaking of which, this wave of events must have generated several $100 million in military production. Forget about the third-class branch assessment given by the Marshal. After the G8 branch incident in 2 days, it would probably be enough to apply for a second-class branch military merit, right? Tisk, a second-class branch in the East Blue, a second-class branch hasn't appeared in the Four Seas for 800 years. This is getting more and more interesting. Thinking of this, Momousaji couldn't help but grin mischievously, as if she could already see the Marshal frantically pulling his hair in the office. A fleeting thought even crossed Momousaji's mind. Should she deliberately give Li Yan more military merits? Lieutenant General Jian, what are you thinking about? Why are you laughing so much? Why do you walk so quietly? Lieutenant General, you were so engrossed in your thoughts that you didn't notice me, were you? No way. From now on, when you approach me, you must march in formation. Just as Momousaji was contemplating whether to give Li Yan more military merits, someone's voice rang out, startling her. As for Li Yan, he was speechless at Momousaji's overreaction. March in formation when approaching him? What kind of nonsense was that? By the way, Li Yan, Marshal Sengoku just gave us a new mission. The G8 branch matter? How did you know? Nodding, Momousaji asked in surprise. Isn't that simple? The intelligence personnel stationed here at headquarters, as well as CP7 and Mary Giais, all know about this. Therefore, Fleet Admiral Sengoku will naturally find out soon too. So, the best way is to send a small contingent of elite troops into the G8 branch without arousing the pirates' suspicion, and then use a clever ruse to wipe them out. And we're only half a day's voyage from the G8 branch. Plus Jian, you're a candidate admiral, so this mission is naturally best suited for us, isn't it? Almost exactly what Fleet Admiral Sengoku had just said, Momousaji felt a little discouraged. Alright, that's roughly it. We'll set off in 3 hours when the warships arrive. No problem. Chapter 75 Command. In the Grand Line, about 100 nautical miles off the G8 branch, a fleet was cutting through the waves. If it were the Navy, that wouldn't be surprising, but this was a fleet composed of pirate ships. On the lead large pirate ship, a pirate with a terrifying scour on his face and exuding a violent aura stood on the bow deck. Any Navy member would recognize him immediately. He was none other than bloodthirsty Taros, the highest bounty pirate among this year's supernovas, with a bounty of 215 million. Speaking of this year's supernovas, there are 9 in total, but apart from Taros, the highest bounty among them is only 130 million. This isn't to say that Taros is significantly stronger than the other 8, while he is indeed stronger, his strength is definitely limited. Although bounties are primarily determined by strength, they aren't the only factor, and Taros falls into this category. The reason he earned the title of Blood Butcher was primarily because he took pleasure in slaughtering the Marines. He would devise various methods to ambush lone Marine warships lacking high-ranking combat personnel, slaughtering all the sailors on board. Therefore, despite having a maximum strength of only 150 million berries, he was given a massive bounty of 215 million berries. Captain, the monitoring team reports that just now, a small warship entered the G8 branch. A small warship? Do you know who's on board? I don't know, but it seems to be a shipwrecked vessel. The hull is badly damaged, and most of the sailors are bandaged. Oh, well, that's good. A few dozen more hostages, isn't it? Hearing this, a mocking smile appeared on Talus's face. Hostages were always welcome, especially a ship full of injured and limited-capacity sailors. Notify all pirate crews, We're departing in 3 hours and aiming to reach the waters where the G8 branch is located by tomorrow night. Yes, Captain. At the same time, inside the G8 branch. Boom. As the small warship entered, the enormous fortress gates, thanks to the efforts of the Marines, closed again, causing a loud bang. Soon, the warship docked in the G8 branch's harbor, but when the Marines began to disembark, the people in the harbor were dumbfounded. More than 50 people had already disembarked, so why were there more? What was going on? You should know that according to the normal organization of the Navy, the standard crew of a small warship is only 28 people, and even with the addition of some special combat personnel, it is generally only about 40 people. After all, these ordinary Marines of the G8 branch did not know the detailed plan of this operation, so it was inevitable that they would be dumbfounded when they saw the number of people disembarking from the ship, especially. In the end, 120 people disembarked from a small warship, including a female vice admiral, which made them even more dumbfounded. How did these 120 people manage to squeeze on board? Furthermore, there are only 2 female vice admirals in the Navy headquarters. One is Chief of Staff Churu, and the other is Mamausaji, one of the 2 admiral candidates. The one in front of them is clearly not Churu. So, a small warship not only secretly transported over 100 Marines in, but even an admiral candidate quietly arrived. Even if they were stupid, they would sense something was wrong. While the G8 branch Marines were speculating, Li Yan and Mamausaji descended the gangway. Honestly, the journey had been quite difficult. Apart from the 20-odd Marines bandaged and camouflaged on the deck, nearly 100 people had spent most of the day crammed into the cabins. Even the corridors, mess halls, and storage rooms were packed. Only Mamausaji and some female sailors were somewhat better off, enjoying 2 out of 3 cabins by themselves. The male sailors, however, were truly suffering. Lieutenant General Mamausaji, this is Major Drake from the G8 branch. By order of Fleet Admiral Sengoku, the branch is now under your full command. Summon all department heads for a combat meeting. Yes, Lieutenant General. 10 minutes later, in the G8 branch's operations room. Besides Li Yan and Mamausaji, all the branch department heads had arrived. Among them were many familiar faces to Li Yan, such as head chef Jessica and Makeo from the maintenance team. Although some weren't department heads, most had been temporarily reassigned to the G1 branch by Akainu, so they were temporarily in charge. Colonel Li Yan, please explain the current situation to everyone. Yes, Lieutenant General Mamausaji. Nodding, Li Yan responded, changing his usual address of Lieutenant General Jian to Lieutenant General Mamausaji. This matter begins in Mok Town. He explained the entire situation in detail from beginning to end, and everyone in the G8 branch's expression changed. More than 20 pirate crews, led by that bloodthirsty Talus, clearly couldn't be handled by G8's current 200-plus Marines, especially since they weren't even the main force. No wonder the Fleet Admiral secretly sent in over 100 elite Marines under the guise of a shipwreck, including Admiral candidate Mamausaji. With that, there was indeed no need to worry too much. Putting aside Mamausaji's strength, those Marines alone, as they had seen when they arrived, were absolutely elite among elites, with many possibly even stronger than Major Drake. Well, now that everyone understands, let's arrange the combat mission. Colonel Li Yan, you will be in full command of this battle. What? Li Yan, who had just finished speaking and was about to sit down, was instantly dumbfounded. What did she mean by full command? This crazy woman was probably up to something again, wasn't she? And it wasn't just Li Yan who was dumbfounded, everyone in the entire operations room was stunned. After all, the general candidate was here, while Li Yan was just a colonel from the East Blue branch. And Mamausaji actually wanted Li Yan to command the battle? Just do what I tell you to do. What are you daydreaming about? Okay. Li Yan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Why refuse such a lucrative offer? Whatever this woman was up to, even if it might be a trap, Li Yan didn't believe Mamausaji would harm him. According to our intelligence, the pirates will arrive in the branch's waters tomorrow and launch an attack under cover of night. Although the defenses on the outer walls of the G8 branch, plus Vice Admiral Jian and myself, are enough to repel all the invading pirates, but I don't intend to do that. What? Pirates are coming, and you're not going to repel them? In the operations room, everyone except Mamausaji was momentarily confused about Li Yan's intentions, and they all looked over, waiting for his explanation. Repelling them is easy, but we're on the high seas. While we can inflict heavy losses on these pirate crews, if they scatter and escape, we won't be able to stop them all. Furthermore, even if we can repel these pirate crews by fighting a defensive battle on the outer wall, the exchange of fire will inevitably cause considerable damage to the G8 branch's outer wall. Therefore, we must lure them in and then trap them. Drake, standing nearby, nodded slightly. Li Yan was right. Since they were here, they had to be contained. There was no reason to merely repel them. Moreover, fighting a defensive battle on the outer wall, especially a cannon firing exchange, wouldn't necessarily give the branch any advantage. Although the Navy's cannons were better than the pirates, there were over 20 pirate crews, with at least 100 cannons on their ships. Even if the Navy won the exchange, the outer wall would likely suffer severe damage. Clearly, Li Yan's suggestion suited him better. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.